The 2025 Logitech G Pro Invitational Qualifying Series is brought to you by Logitech G, Motorsport Australia, The Gamesman, Playseat, OG Gear, Max Pappas Innovations, SimSpeed TV, Speed Cafe, and the Australian Sim Racing Group.
Weekend in, weekend out, Motorsport Australia officials are making waves. From waving flags, waving cars through pit lane, or responding to a wave for help. Wave hello to new lifelong friends. Who knows, you might just make waves around the world. Ride the first wave. Search Motorsport Australia officials today.
We are gaming fanatics. Our goal has never been to just play games. We think it's much better to feel like you're actually in the game. This feeling is what drives us as we create world-class gaming chairs. Our one aim, give you a brand new gaming experience. Help you move in perfect sync with everything on screen. Make sure you're having a ton of fun. It took us decades to achieve this, and we're still not satisfied. Every day, we wake up to get better. We'll never stop designing the very best to help you be your best. When it's all said and done, our job's only done if you're in full flow and focused on your victory. May you win, and win big.
Hi, I'm Brendan Leach, driver of the number 7 Audi R8 or MPC Audi Custom Racing. First impressions of OG gear on the sim, fantastic. It feels really nice in your hands and doesn't gather up under your fingers. The sock, very breathable for me. I get sweaty feet when I'm on the simulator. I know that's not the nicest thing to say. It has just the right amount of grip because your feet do just naturally move around on the pedals a little bit, and I like the way that they give you that freedom but also give you that stability that you need.
In 2025, we enter a new generation of the Logitech Pro Invitational Series. It's a new car, it's a new season, it's a new outing, it's a new opportunity for the drivers you'll be seeing tonight to qualify their way in. Hi, hello, and welcome. I can't wait. I've been waiting for this since the release of the Generation 3 V8 Supercar chassis since December, but it is now time. The Logitech G Pro Invitational 2025 qualifying series, and we're live from the circuit. Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. It's one that goes a long way back. It has great history and it's a cultural icon, even though it's really not based in Australia, but that supercars community have claimed it as their own. And tonight, we're going to be seeing 45 drivers try and qualify their way through. I'm Scotty Rankin. Alongside of me tonight, I've got Stephen Sandman Clark, and even better, we've got Bo Albert, who is apparently somewhat of an expert, although, you know, results may not necessarily match how it said on the tin.
G'day, boys. G'day, Bo. Nice of you to join us for the qualifying series. Something different for you, mate.
No, definitely something a little bit different. I'm glad I'm on this side of the commentary booth rather than being in the action tonight, because I went through this process last season, and these 4 rounds are cutthroat. They are brutal, and these drivers have their work cut out for them tonight.
There's a lot of racing action to come our way. 51 laps is going to be the duration, but before we can get there, there's a lot to walk through. And Sandman, you're back in a whole bunch of new digs. You're back in a new suit. You've got everything ready to go, and it might be time for the first time for the season to jump across to the Logitech G Hub. What do you got prepared for us down there?
Mate, as you touched on, season 2025, it's all upon us now. And so trying to do my best Mark Larkham impression. Got the new duds for the season 25, but boy, how exciting is it? You touched on it a little bit. Obviously, we've got so much to play out for this season. And this is where it all starts. For people that aren't in the championship at the moment, it's the qualifying series. The next 4 weeks is going to determine whether you're actually going to be part of this championship or whether you're sitting on the sidelines watching. So much to play out. And, of course, one of the big talking points for this season, something that we are so excited about, hashtag it's here, it's Gen 3. It's given everyone a little bit of a even playing field too, I'd like to think, because everyone's had the same amount of time to get their head wrapped around this car, whether it's a Mustang or whether it's a Chevy Camaro. These cars do drive differently, and it's going to be really interesting to actually have a chance to talk to Bo tonight as the season goes on, or as the race goes on, I should say, just to get a bit of an understanding about the differences that you would feel as a driver, because jumping into this car, it's a little bit foreign. They're a little bit shorter, they're a little bit wider, and they've got less downforce too. So it's a really different driving style, and something that I think is going to be a really level playing field for this season. So what have we got tonight? It's Mosport Park, 51 laps. You already touched on there, Scotty, and the boys have got their work cut out for them, because there's so much that can happen around this racetrack. Opened back in 1961, and you look at the race distance for just over 4 kilometres, 51 laps, and this racetrack has a little bit of everything. The undulations that you'll see on this racetrack, it's so easy to make a little mistake and lock up a brake. I reckon there's so much time to be gained too, especially through 4, 5 and 6, and then you carry on, and that exit all the way down to 7, 8 into the S's. So much time can be gained and lost there, and if you can get a little bit of a toe too, that can always work out to be your best friend as well. So strategy, what are we talking about? Much going on in the strategy department, unfortunately, but a little bit of leeway. I reckon the crucial lap is about lap 7, where the teams can sort of start thinking about pit stops and going for it. You can see there's not really that much into it, but so many things can play out. And one of those things and the factors will be the safety car. And we've got a gorgeous BMW Logitech safety car. So that's one of the things that can throw a spanner in the works for these teams, because they may have the best strategy in the world and they may have everything going to plan, but this thing could come out and ruin your night completely. But on the other hand, it could be a saviour too. Because if you find yourself that you're getting yourself in a little bit of trouble, you may be desperately wanting one of these. Is we going to get one tonight? Who knows? We'll just have to play with the game and wait and see. The other factor is, for 2025, it's these bad boys, the cloud cover, the rain. We've got rain for supercars for the first time here in 2025. So that is going to be a massively, massively big impactor for the season this year, not only in the qualifying series, but as the year goes on. These teams and drivers need to get themselves really wrapped around this fact that these cars really behave differently in the wet. The conditions change. They've got big puddles. And the way that these cars react as the track conditions change, it's going to dry. There's going to be puddles. There's going to be so many things to talk about. And also, you look at some of this onboard vision as the visibility that some of these races will have. You know, you're going to have light rain. We're going to have heavy rain. So many things are going to make or break someone throughout 2025. But tonight, it's all about the qualifying series, and it's Mosport. Really excited to get this one started. And I reckon it's time to go and check out the track and see just who is in the park and maybe ready to take on and maybe get their first win tonight.
Oh, so much that you've touched on there, and there's so many different little bits and pieces. The rain is going to be something. I was a little bit excited. I saw some early forecasts for this race, and rain was theoretically in the mix. Things have changed here tonight. Rain not in the mix for round number 1 of the qualifying series with Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. But what is in the mix is a new tyre and new car. And, well, we've got Bo along with us. And, Bo, you've got the keys to the car. What what are some of the keys to getting your head around this new Gen 3 chassis?
Well, I think the biggest thing for all the drivers is understanding that these cars are a revolution, not an evolution. They are a totally different beast to drive, and I think for all of us, the first thing we did was throw it around one of our favorite tracks, whether it was Phillip Island or Mount Panorama. We turned into a corner at our normal braking point, and then it hit us, really. It's, oh wow, there is so much less downforce. There's so much less mid-corner grip in particular. And then again, when you pick up the throttle on the exit of one of these corners, the car just lights up in a wheel spin. It is super nervous, on edge, and you really have to have a very careful right foot to get the most out of this car. But then you also look at the car setup. These cars are a little bit different to set up. We go from, for example, a 4-way damper down to a 2-way damper. And for me personally, one of the biggest things I used to play with a lot was the anti-roll bar adjustments. Now you can still change the anti-roll bars, but it is only a preset option now. You cannot change them during a race. You have to set it before the race. What you can change now though is throttle shaping. That is essentially when you press the accelerator, how does the power actually get delivered through the rear wheels? Is it an aggressive initial start to the pedal travel, or is it a more aggressive bit of throttle initially as you hit the accelerator? And that's something that the drivers will know what they want in the dry, but when it comes time for the wets, they have to be on their toes and maybe change that setting a little bit as well. But there are so many more keys to this car, and I'm sure we'll talk about it further on in the race. But for now, I reckon they're the key points to really look out for as we get closer to qualifying.
Yeah, and it is a beautiful, beautiful chassis. How are you boys? I know you've both done some laps in the car. I've done a ton of laps. To be perfectly honest with you, I've probably done more time in this new car in a couple months than I have done in the Gen 2 chassis ever. So I love it. But one of the biggest things that hit me straight away was the engine note. Oh, it's a beautiful engine. And then the gear cut. One of the best feelings I've had in the sim ever was the first time I jumped aboard the Mustang and just went whack, whack, whack through the gears. And you just felt it inside of you. It was a glorious sound.
Yeah, they did a really good job, didn't they? And that was obviously one of the first things that I noticed too, was like, how good does it sound? You're on the rev limit, or you're on this pit lane speed limiter, and you leave the lane and then you pop the speed limiter, and it just sounded great. So they've done a really good job. And obviously the cars both look fantastic, both the Mustang and the Chevy, and excited to see them on track and racing, and to have them as part of our series is just thrilling. Although we've been waiting so long, it was always #soon, was it? But now it's #now, so I'm really looking forward to it.
How many times did we mention it last year? We were both sitting on the edge of our seats going, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. And then they went, yes, it is coming. And we went, yay! Okay.
Yes.
So, was that the same reaction? I don't know. How are you feeling?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think I did one lap out of the pits and then immediately went back into the pits. And then I just watched the replay for a couple of hours. And how good does it sound flying past you? And like Sandman said as well, when you hit the limiter in this car, oh my lord, the noise is glorious. I absolutely love it. But there is obviously a little bit of a different engine note between the two cars. You can see on board with Damon Woods at the moment in the Chevrolet, it does actually have a fairly distinct sound difference between the Chevrolet and the Ford as well. I don't know about you boys, but I'm definitely Team Ford.
Oh, okay, here we go. This is going to get divisive in the commentary box, and I already know exactly what Sandman says. I'm a Team Ford man as well. Sandman?
Wow, I'm only the only Chevy boy sitting around here, eh? Don't worry, I'm sitting around. I've got a box of Kleenex because I know where Red Bull's going for 2026. Yeah. I've got the Kleenex ready, so I'm a Team Chevy boy.
And a debate that's divided Australian racing fans for the longest period of time continues to divide Australian racing fans, albeit with just a different logo. Righto, we are a minute and 30 seconds away from getting into our first ever qualifying session. I think in terms of the Australian market, I've just been watching quite a few leagues. This is going to be one of the first few times that we'll have an open slather qualifying session. If you're joining us for the first time and you're used to the iRacing official style of qualifying where it's lone qualifying, nope, everyone's going to be out there and on the circuit at the same time. We'll have ourselves a 20-minute session. The only rules is if you pop an engine, and I'll stick my hand up and say straight away I'm very adept at popping engines in these new cars. That's it. Qualifying session is over. You need to get out, get your lap in, and get back to the pit lane. Bo, are we seeing one-lap dashes yet again? Because Sandman and I were so keen for longer qualifying sessions last year.
It does appear to be that it is still a case where the one lap is still going to be quickest, but that second lap is not as bad as it used to be in the old car. In the old car, it used to be a case of that second lap was somewhere around 3-4 tenths slower. Whereas we are finding in this car, especially in the colder conditions, which we do have here today at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, it is possible to still get a very competitive lap time on that second lap. The only thing is, we're still looking at relatively slow out laps, and the draft is still a big factor. So for those of you that loved watching those giant packs of cars streaming down to start their qualifying runs, that's still going to be a factor in these Gen 3 cars.
So we're going to be seeing those big packs once again, and the track map jumps in, and we will be jumping into qualifying in just a few moments. Our stewards were just in the sim reminding everyone as well, hey, make sure you don't tow. That will be the end of your qualifying session. That's always a feel-bad situation when somebody jumps in. You just forget one of those little P's and Q's, but both, that's part of preparing for a series like this. Got to read a rule book. You've got to find the ins and outs, and on night one, you don't want to be falling foul of the stewards.
No, absolutely not. And of course, this qualifying series runs to the identical rules of the Pro Series as well. So not only are these drivers trying to prove their worth of making the top 20 and qualifying through to the main series, but at the same time, it's a good little warm-up for those that might be a little bit more confident that they're going to make the cutoff, that, okay, what rules do I need to know? Where might I be getting caught out in the regulations? And all those little things, because we all know when it comes time for the main series, and not just the main series, but this qualifying series too, but those little penalty infringements that a driver can rack up for just little things can very much define a season come the end of the championship. So for those drivers that are more confident, that's definitely something they need to nail in and start preparing for, because yeah, we've seen championships decided from it.
So, man, as we dip into qualifying for the first time, I know you were thinking about 5 different drivers across the course of things to have a look at as they carry through the series, or 5 drivers to keep an eye on. Qualifying session number 1, and the first time you can put yourself on pole position, and one of the big factors as well, win and you're in. So qualifying here tonight might just be all you need to get yourself up the front, out of the misery. Who are you keeping an eye on for our first qualifying session this season?
The list is long, isn't it? You know, we tried to dissect a few names just more privately, didn't we? Just trying to see who could be the make or breaks. But you know what? I'm keen to see the likes of Emily Jones. She's in the field today, so I want to see that. You know, hopefully that she is one that will put her best foot forward and maybe make a start for the A game in 2025. But isn't it tough? And I guess that's the beauty of this series. When we were talking about the practice times earlier, I think it was Bo that touched on, was like, was it 2 or 3 tenths in practice, and that puts you outside the top 20. Like, that's insane. So it's so hard, isn't it, to go up and down the field and try to pick a favourite and maybe pick an absolute winner for tonight.
And I got to catch up over the weekend with 2 drivers that are in this qualifying field. One of them was Kurt Stenberg, who is currently operating from his non-home base. He's over in New South Wales to attend a wedding, actually, the wedding of Madison Down. He's won this championship in the past, and he's operating off of Josh Anderson, another Pro Series driver's rig this week, and I believe he's got the rig booked in for next week as well. So he'll be in New South Wales on a fine rig for the next 2 weeks, albeit he'll have a live spotter looking over his shoulder and helping him out at every step of the way. The other driver I spoke to was Damon Woods. He said, man, look, I jumped in this car straight away, thought I might have to switch over and I might have to start right foot braking. So he's making decisions about how he's progressing his career, known for a lot of IMSA starts and the ability to put the car right at the pointy end of the field to start things off. First qualifying laps are coming through. They're in the books. Brenton Hobson goes straight to the top end of the timing sheets with a 1:18.766. And have a look at how close they are. How many cars are covered by less than a tenth of a second? It's 5 of them on their first qualifying lap. 16 laps now in the books. I am seeing a couple cars that pick themselves up an incident point, denied themselves their first opportunity to set a qualifying lap. That is it. We are 3.5 minutes into qualifying number 1 for the Pro Invitational qualifying series. The first laps are on the board, and the first markers are out there, and how important it is to get this one in the books early. Yeah, Bo?
Yeah, no, it's very important, because if you do invalidate that very first lap, it's sort of a chip on your shoulder for the rest of the sessions. You know, you've got that pressure of you've missed the first 4 or 5 minutes of the session, and you don't have anything to show for it, and you know the pressure is on for those final few runs. So being able to set a nice clean banker at the start is a really good approach, and obviously a nice thing to have as well. And something I found in the Pro Series last season was maybe don't go all out on the first qualifying run, just maybe set a banker, something you're comfortable with, and something to get a time on the board, and just build from it. So then go a little bit quicker on the second run, and then go all out on that third run. I found that was an approach that really helped me turn my qualifying form around last season. But for these drivers, some of them have just come storming out of the blocks with some very competitive times. And Brenton Hobson, like I said, top of the timesheets, looking very strong in the Synergy Sim Racing car. Have a look at one of the TTR cars coming through this very high speed final section of the lap. You can see just the speed they carry in through there, just dragging the brake as well, just trying to keep the nose of the car down, get it rotated through this slow sequence of corners. As he rounds the final corner, we will see what Kurt Stenberg can put on the leaderboard.
That's a second attack lap as well for Stenny. His first lap was only a 21, so he backed out of it nice and early. Does improve on the second flying lap. And it's interesting you say that, Bo, because I believe your last outing in the Pro Series, you left your qualifying lap until the very last lap of the session. It was good enough to be in the front of the row. So you're speaking from experience there? How much more calm you were in the sim?
Yeah, no, definitely. If you look at my qualifying form across last season, it'd be, yeah, look, I'm not even going to speak about the first half of the season. That was a nightmare. And when you do find yourself qualifying at the back, it makes the races so much harder, because we're looking at the times right now, and currently I am seeing 0.3 of a second off pole, with 24th as Greg Favell is finding out at the moment. So if you cannot handle that qualifying lap, you are putting yourself in a world of hurt for the races. So these drivers, qualifying is absolutely critical. As we take a look at Dylan Pereira.
Pereira comes through, out and through the S's. He's going to get held up just a little bit as the driver that currently sits in fifth spot. It's Richie Stanaway that's right ahead of him. Both of the drivers on an in-lap though, so it's not really going to be too much of an issue. First runs in the book for these guys. And Sam, and you take a look at that timing tower. One of the drivers we haven't necessarily talked about or thought about a little bit. You mentioned Emily Jones, she sits third on the timing tower, but it's Dylan O'Shea who sits in second, which is a good return to form for the Racecraft Sim Racing, 9.5 Sim Racing driver.
How's the time too? Absolutely nothing in it. And as we were talking about, there's a 10th covering the top 11 cars. Like, that's insane. And that's basically, these drivers have basically got their first run out of the way. What have we got? 13 and a half minutes to go too. So a lot of people will be sweating on that. And the pressure would be immense when you know that you look at that and you know there's a 10th covering 11 drivers. That's insane.
Yeah, I believe Brenton Hobson's on an outlap at the moment as well. You touched on it, Bo. You said these outlaps may be a touch slower. We're not seeing that. This is an outlap on board here for Hobbo. He's not crawling around as we did last season, but he's not out there and attacking either. You do require some temperature at the front end of this race car, that is one of the bigger changes.
Correct. There is now a bit of a warm-up phase with these tyres. They're not immediately as quick as they might have been in the old car, where having the colder tyres was actually a benefit. In these cars, it is definitely a disadvantage, and they do come up to temp relatively quickly, fortunately. It's not like we have a 3-4 lap phase-in period. But for these drivers, yeah, they are actually pushing about 80-90% on their outlaps here. And I think a lot of that is due to the fact it is quite a short lap here, at only about 78 seconds here at Mosport. So that period where they actually need to get lap time in is super important, as we just saw there. Brenton Hobson running a little bit wide, dragged himself out into the marbles. And those marbles in this new iRacing update, they are a lot more painful. If you dip a wheel into them, there is a big grip loss. And I'm sure we've all suffered it. It is not a fun experience.
You notice it too, especially if you're not paying attention and not looking at it. You hear it underneath the car too, don't you? All that debris just bouncing off underneath the race car. And of course, something that's a little bit different for this season with the update too is just how much grass and garbage that these cars will bring back on the racetrack if they have an excursion.
Oh, it's a huge thing, and that's one thing we actually noticed in officials, is there was quite a clear example of that in week 2, where myself and my teammate Robbie Gibbs were leading a very comfortable 1-2 at the end of like lap 3 or something, and a back marker totally out of sort of the realm of the race had a big off. And me and Robbie came through the final corner at Phillip Island, and out of nowhere, we've just felt the wheel collapse from us and just massive understeer. We both nearly fired it off the road, and that's something these drivers in the race are going to have to look out for, because it is a big thing when you get all 4 tyres into the gravel. As we see a new fastest lap now goes to Damon Woods, breaking to the 18.6s, which is a seriously strong lap. But what did I say? We're going to see draft trains still in the Gen 3, and Wayne Burke finds himself in a pretty good one at the moment.
I've just heard a request from Richie Stanaway, who's parked up on the exit of Moss Corner. So he's had a major issue down at turn 4, turn 5, and his qualifying session will be over. It will be no further than 9th on the grid for the Lobs Esports driver. And yeah, there was major issues, unfortunately, for Richie Stanaway. He's trying to get out of the way of everyone as well. So looks like whatever the drama was might actually be out of fuel on that car as well. So he's had some sort of drama. But car is done for the session, so we can only drift further back from that. 10 off the pole lap, and Damon Woods made a habit of this in a bunch of different series. Touring car styled cars have not been his major forte. He's extremely strong in open wheel cars. So is making a stamp of authority here tonight, Sam, and that's a big stamp of authority early on.
Yeah, I just want to touch on this part of the racetrack. Look where we are now. Look at the marbles everywhere off the racing line. All through this section, through 4, 5, 6, 7. It's incredible. The amount of build up there is just ridiculous. And we're only, what are we, 10 minutes later?
I think this might be Richie Stanaway. So that was a replay, the OG Gear replay, coming into things early on in the series.
He's kicking themselves if they've run out of fuel.
Yeah. Whether or not it was an unintended, all of a sudden he just found himself going for a second lap and wasn't prepared for it as well. And I was talking about a few new settings that come back to the car, including the dampers, and one that I noticed when I was through the setups as well as the droopers back, which was removed from the old Gen 2 cars because there was issues with the way the droop was functioning. That has returned for the Gen 3 chassis. Cody Deeth has been quick in the new hardware and actually won himself the Strength of Field official race in week 2. Actually, no, it was week 1 back at Watkins Glen. So he started off with a big bang in terms of his capabilities. Ryan Jones, DPR Sim Racing, so the DPR drivers all chained up together. No? Anyone that's caught your eye thus far in the qualifying session, Samuel?
Oh, mate. No, I'm literally going up and down through the field and just seeing who's where. And I guess it's one of those things where they know they've still got sort of, nearly 8.5 minutes to go in the session. So you don't want to rule anyone out just yet. But then I wonder, have we gone past sort of the best part of the racetrack? It is getting dirtier, but I'm noticing the cloud cover coming over as well. So, and that's obviously something that plays a big part. The UV in this racetrack, obviously everyone really enjoys it when the clouds come out because the track does get that little bit faster. So I know a number of teams and drivers will be hoping for that if they find themselves outside of the top 10 or 15.
There's actually a really interesting point that I heard John Heinhoff make during the coverage of the Bathurst 12 Hour over the weekend, and it was that we have a very dark asphalt at Mount Panorama, and one of the things you can notice there, as you're seeing Kurt Stenberg with Glenn Postlethwaite in behind him, setting his laps, is that much lighter colour of asphalt, so it's not going to take that heat into the racetrack. Wobbling around a little bit low, but new car, new chassis, relying a lot on that mechanical grip. That the temperatures, are we going to see such a swing in peak lap pace based upon the temperatures? It was quite a big swing in the old cars.
I think you will see quite a big swing, obviously, in the old car where it was a bit more aerodynamic focused. You can sort of just carry the same speed regardless of the track temp, like to a degree, of course. Hotter weather was always going to be slower, but it didn't have quite the same impact on overall grip that a car with less aerodynamics actually will have. So these cars will get thrown around just a little bit more by the temperature, and I tell you what, when the temperatures do get up, or the track temperatures do get up in these cars, it is such a tough car to handle because, like I mentioned in the intro, already at a baseline, these cars are so tough to drive. The throttle pickup was the thing that really caught me, and you'll see it a lot as we go on board with the 889 here of Jack Wittes. There is some long corners around here, and as you try and pick up the throttle, you're going to see that wheel work just keep moving around. You see he had it fairly under control there, so a nice gentle touch on the accelerator by him there, but you will see a lot of the drivers, especially in the practice session I was watching earlier, where they were really fighting the wheel out of these corners. And look at this corner where it just gets tighter and tighter and tighter, and eventually you just have to commit. You can't see the exit of the corner there, but there comes a point where you know that you need to get your foot down, because this run down this ever so long elevated back straight is so critical to your lap, especially when you don't quite have the toe of the car ahead, as Jack Wittes is probably just a little bit too far back from Brenton Hobson ahead. Carry the speed through this long right-hander, try and get as close to that curb there and get it over to the left. Some drivers will mount that curb. Jack elects not to. Get it back over to the left, open up this final corner and just plant your foot and hope for the best. You saw the wheel work there. He'll cross the start-finish line and register a 120.1, a little bit off from what we have seen him do previously. It could just be a build lap for him, and see if this is the lap he needs.
It'll be interesting to see how many drivers are targeting that second lap, particularly on the shorter lap distance. And this is the replay of what I was exclaiming about a few moments ago. And the Vermilion car was getting out of the way, and that's still on a show that can make contact. So 39 entry, unfortunately, makes contact, which is Wayne Burke, and has crawled it back around to the pit lane because he wants another crack at qualifying with 5 minutes left on the clock. And I'm going to steal some of Bo's notes. He was kindly passing on Lewis to make us a little bit more fancy earlier on before we went live. So thank you for making me look intelligent, Bo, but you get all the credit. More agile in the rear end, these cars in qualifying trips. So the pace you guys are going to see out of qualifying tonight is not going to match the pace you're going to see in the race. Well, one of the reasons, there's going to be 133 litres worth of fuel that you can throw on board. Number 2 is, well, you're going to smoke those rear tyres. So you will see cars, a real work in qualifying is seeing at the moment. It's going to go away a little bit. In the meantime, Tom Freer, new team for him, moves across to Vermilion Sim Sports, moves away from Synergy Sim Racing. He was looking forward to the Gen 3 chassis. He was wondering whether or not he'd come back if it was still Gen 2, Gen 3 come about. And it's revitalised his sim racing career. 22nd on the board at the moment. Work to do for a driver that's been in the series for the last few years. And a lot riding on this one here tonight. But that's just a big statement about how close that field is, Sam, is that the Freer is on the outlook.
Yeah, that's it. And we keep touching on that in the times and how it is and how incredibly close. And I think this season is going to be the toughest by far because everyone, I touched on it in the Logitech G-Hub, is that everyone's pretty much had the same amount of time to get used to these cars. And, you know, they would have been frantically testing to see what these cars like and don't like compared to Gen 2. So I think where it's at, I think the racing is going to be incredibly tough. And I thank the lucky stars, not that I'd be good enough to make this series, but not to be in a position where you have to have the pressure of you've only got 4 rounds to make the cut to take part in 2025 because the driving and the racing is going to be as close as we're ever going to see it.
Well, here we go. We're getting down into the final moments of the first place seat pole position battle for the year. And the driver on screen has just gone to the top of the timing charts. By the way, there is not a thousandth of a second. We have to go to the 10,000th to split them, as happened back at Spa at the end of 2024. It was teammates at that opportunity. It's teammates again. It's the Eclipse Sim Sports 1-2. And that is a huge statement for drivers that have not made a name for themselves in these cars thus far. Matty Bowler has been quick in the new hardware. It seems to really, really suit him. And the big note that I probably talked about was that I heard from a few drivers, the drivers that seem to win out of the new chassis, Porsche Cup drivers. Guess what Matty Bowler drives a whole bunch of? Porsche Cup cars. Do you corroborate that? You're a big Porsche Cup car man yourself?
Yeah, definitely.
Like it's definitely helped?
Definitely used to be. I used to love that car. That was my bread and butter for a long time. And there's definitely a lot more of a skill set sort of similarity between those two cars than there was with the Gen 2. I always found the Gen 2 was a bit of an oddball car in the fact that it was so different to anything else on the sim. Like it was just its own beast with very little else to sort of build you up into becoming a good Gen 2 supercars driver. This new Gen 3 though, I do think there are other cars out there that you can probably drive for a little bit and actually sort of build up to driving one of these very brutal Gen 3 supercars. And I think the Porsche Cup is definitely one of the last steps on that ladder to driving these cars effectively. As we go on board with Matty Bowler here, you can see that beautiful side exit exhaust there as well, which I love that it's so much closer to the front. You get some beautiful screenshots in there. But at the same time, you also see how low we run these cars to the ground because it is a lot more mechanically focused. It is something we have to play around with just to get any kind of rotation through these corners. But you can see here, firing through the second last right-hander on the circuit, keeping the speed up. He's got a nice little toe there, and I think that might even be Hayden Veld in front of him. And you can see Bowler elects to use the curb there. So again, we've seen a split on the two drivers we've watched through there, using the curb versus not using the curb. It's all driver preference, but for Matty Bowler, what it will result in is a time not quite as quick as his quickest, and he'll stay in P8 for now.
Inside the top 10 late on in the session. Minute and 10 seconds remain. Burst on a lap as it currently stands. Who else in the field is trying to put their case forward to climb their way up the ladders? Let's run you through them. Dylan Burst from Damon Woods, Brenton Hobson, Dylan O'Shea, Emily Jones, your top 5. Pereira just outside 6. And remember, we're talking about Tom Freer a few moments ago. He catapults himself up the list, sits in 7th spot. Bowler from Kobe Williams and Richie Stanaway round out your top 10. Reminder, Richie Stanaway's session is done, so he's forced to sit back, relax, and watch. Still hangs on to a top 10. Who is going to trump him in the final few moments of the session, Sam?
Yeah, well, I thought he was in trouble. When we saw how early that he was going to have to sit the rest of his poly session out, I thought that was actually going to bite him, but he's managed to stay inside the top 10 for the moment. So he might be thinking he's like his stars at this stage, or I thought he'd drop out a little bit more than that. So,
well, that just comes straight back to what we were talking about earlier, doesn't it? Get yourself a good banker early on, and it can save your entire session. I think for Richie, that is absolutely the case. As we enter into the final few moments of this session, Dylan Burst comes across the line. What does he register? It's not quite as quick. Still holds provisional pole for now, though. But plenty of drivers all aiming to knock him off the perch. One of those is third place Brenton Hobson, who needs to find a measly 9,000ths of a second as he works his way through this long right-hander, carries the speed, doesn't get in the marbles this time around. This is looking good for the 88.
Starting to build the speed. He'll crest the hill over at turn 4 on the run down to Moss Corner. This will set him up for the back straight away. Make sure you pull it up nice and accurately. Cody D's session will be done on his way into the pit lane. The session has now run the checkered flags. Drivers will pass the start-finish line. That'll be it for the session. Freer gets to the line. Is he able to improve? No, he won't be able to improve, but he will have been trying to offer a toe to the drivers in behind him. Emily Jones has moved back to 6th spot. Who's managed to find some time? It's Pereira who slots himself up in a 4th spot. O'Reilly's gone quicker as well. Moves the Vermilion Sim Racing driver up to 7. Bowler's back to 9th. That means Stanaway's outside of the 10 now. Wayne Burke's in 12th. Look at all the drivers. Look at the host of teams as well. What I like about looking at this list is that there's a whole bunch of teams. Hello out of the final corner. Has he found some speed? Not able to improve. Visma just ahead of him, who won't improve his times either. So the session is just about done. Who's left over? Burst is going to cross the line. I think that is going to be it. I think everyone now on a flying lap has completed it. And the first place seat pole position looking to go the way of Dylan Burst. In a few moments, we'll have that one confirmed for us. And 45 drivers are in, 45 times on the board. Sorry, only 44 times were able to make the board. And it is tight up and down that field. And if you're starting towards the rear, you will be looking at those qualifying results and thinking it is a long, long way back from here. Session is done, qualifying results locked in, and we have our first qualifying grid for the season. It is going to be an Eclipse Sim Sports front row lockout. Dylan Burst will take it from Damon Woods, and the times utterly identical. You have to go back to the 10,000th of a second to separate them. No time between the front row. Brenton Hobson and Dylan Pereira make it a Synergy Sim Racing row number 2. How about that? 2 team lockouts in 2 rows. Dylan O'Shea will be the first driver that'll line up alongside not a teammate for 9.5 Sim Sports. Emily Jones will be the driver that's sitting alongside of him. 5,000 separate row number 3. Row number 4, Jacob O'Reilly and Tom Freer making another teammate. Row number 4 in Vermilion Esports entries. We'll throw it back to row number 5, where it's going to be Matthew Bowler from Kobe Williams in the third of those Eclipse Sim Sports entries, the most of any team inside the top 10. Richie Stanaway's Lobster Esports entry just outside of the top 10, 11th spot, early toe for him. Wayne Burke will start to his outside. From there on back, it's going to be Sean McNamara, the veteran, who will line up alongside of the man who's been in the commentary box before, Ryan Jones. He knows his way around a microphone and apparently a Gen 3 supercar as well. Andrew Dyson, the teammate at DPR, will line up just in behind him. Lachlan Capel for the Evolution Racing team car to his outside in 16th. Cody Deeth a little bit deeper in the field than he necessarily would have liked. And Brady Baldwin will qualify inside of the top 20 as well. Glenn Postlethwaite will line up on 19th alongside of Brian Borg to take us through the top 20. And have a look at that. 2.5 tenths of a second covers our top 20. 4 thousandths further back outside of U20 is Sebastian Vandel, dead on that 2.5 tenths of a second marker. Joshua Horton will line up alongside of him. On row number 11, Hayden Veld and Ryan Bettes. Well, Veldy wanted to make Road America a big result for himself last season. He did, nearly became the meme of the league for the year. Ryan Bettes will line alongside of him. Greg Favell and Jack Wittes are going to be off of row number 13. Just over 3 tenths of a second and 1,000th of a second between both of these guys. The times are super, super tight. Teo Sorono is going to be out of 27th spot. Tice Hodge will be lining up alongside of him. Guess what? 1,000th of a second separating these guys, although it's down to the 10,000th to actually split them. Michael Taliancic and Brad Ratu are going to make out your top 30. From here, it's only 14 more cars to go, but we're going to quick fire through them. Daniel Benefield from Jake Blackwell. 33rd, 34th is going to be Corey Preston. Ben Faulkner will be back in behind them. Another of the real-world drivers, Andre Heimgartner, is going to be off of 35th. Jack Andrews will be to his outside. Dennis Gitarik will be 37th. Andre Youssef alongside of him. Rain Campbell will be inside of the field. Tyson Broad will be alongside of him. Christopher Island will be out of 41st. 42nd will be Anthony Visma. Kurt Stenberg and Damon Mulqueen will make the rear end of the field. And now it's time as well for our Gamesman Grid Walk, which means we've got an opportunity to talk to the drivers that are on our front row. And I tell you what, we're going to be talking to 3 separate Eclipse Sim Sport drivers because they've locked out the 3 positions we're going to be talking about. Dylan Burse, mate, first off, welcome to the series, buddy. Straight on a pole position.
Yeah,
and,
thanks, mate.
Couple of 10,000ths of a second quicker than the teammate, mate. So what did he have to do to find that few extra moments?
I don't know. I guess just be 10,000ths quicker. I'm just that good, I guess, compared to him. He's just bad. But no. No, I don't know. Pure luck. I was struggling the whole quali. I felt like I still didn't extract my full pace, but I mean, in the end, you can't complain. Got pole by nothing, so it's pretty good.
For you guys, this is a really, really important start to the season as we fire off down into turn number 1. There's going to be a little bit of conversation back and forth because the biggest sort of start to this season, you win this race, you're straight in, but that then means that you jump on board and you're going to be helping the teammates for the rest of the season. So is it a little bit of discussion back and forth? Is it going to be managing that race pace as well?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we'll just try and work together as best as we can, pretty much, because I mean, one of us would love to win the race so we can practice for 12-hour stuff, because that's midway through this series, and we care about GTs quite a lot, so we'll be working on docs and that, so it's going to be hard with this in the meanwhile, but yeah, getting a win would help a lot for that. We can just have one person doing GT the whole time and locking in for that, you know?
In terms of things tonight, Mosport Park, it's a very, very quick lap. Have you guys sort of already locked in? You're feeling confident because new car, new style of car for you guys. You're feeling confident in the strategy and the way things are set up?
Yeah, I mean, we looked through it a little bit. I feel like we should have a pretty good idea for strat. Small track, very little time margins, so yeah, it should be good. Race should go as planned, hopefully. Safety cars shouldn't mess too much up, hopefully.
And mate, finally, good luck. Get your head down, get out there and get cracking, because Sandman's going to wander down to your teammate who's sitting just alongside of you, and Stephen Clark's alongside of Damon Woods.
It's a long walk, isn't it, right next door? How do you feel about that, Damon? He stole your pole off you and there was absolutely nothing in it.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, he was one matching me. I wasn't matching him, so it really just it shows the dominance in P2 at the moment. But no, yeah, I'm pretty happy. I didn't really expect that. I came in being about a 10th off Dylan. I knew Dylan's pace would be very good, but yeah, coming in, I wasn't as confident. Hadn't done the amount of practice I probably should have. But yeah, we timed the tow very well with Kobe and Dylan, and we worked together perfectly. Unfortunately, Kobe didn't get his lap hooked up completely, but he's still in the 10 and he's up the front and probably going to make some impact.
So you'd be feeling pretty good about tonight. It's obviously a good start when you can qualify on the front row. How are you feeling with the brand new Gen 3 car?
I mean, as soon as the car came out, we smashed laps in it, did a couple of official leaks at Watkins Glen and Phillip Island, and we're pretty quick. We were able to match the boys running in the main series, so I think the confidence is high, but since then, the focus has shifted to GT3 as that's the main focus with European commitments. But yeah, we'll see how we go. I think that's the way to go about it. Just be level-headed, play it by ear. Don't go in with too much confidence or too much ego. And yeah, just try and maximise what we can.
Give your teammate a hard time into turn 1. How about that off the start?
Of course, mate. Inside.
Well, All
Big
the best,
outside.
Damon. It's going to be a ripper of a race. Obviously, you know what's on the line, and it's pretty exciting to kick off the new era with Gen 3, mate. All the best, and keep it clean, and hopefully we're talking to you at the end of the night.
Yeah, I hope so. Have fun with Comms Box, boys.
And now we're going to go, we might even throw to Bo. Looks like Bo's made his way all the way down then to Cody, who's back in 17th place on the grid. Still not over yet, though. Back in 17th. How about it, Bo?
Yeah, no, definitely not. Still plenty of moves that you can make there, Cody. It's good to see you in the supercar. Before we talk about the grid position there, how are you actually finding a new car? Of course, you're again from Eclipse Simsport and big focus on GT cars. What's taken the Gen 3 to you by surprise?
Oh, look, it's 600 horsepower and weighs a ton and a half, so it's pretty big, pretty much a handful compared to a GT3, which I usually indulge in. But no, it's interesting. I'm liking the challenge, but obviously hasn't gone too well for me tonight so far. But we'll try and get back up the front later on tonight.
Yeah, there's definitely a few different ways you can play it to try and get through the front. It can be raw aggression, which I know you're very capable of, brutal pace at the best of times, but also a bit of strategy. So don't give away too many cards, but what's the thought plan in making your way through the field tonight?
Oh, look, you know, I don't know, make a couple positions at the start. Maybe I might stay out, but I'm still buried, you know, at the top end of the 15th or so. Who knows, might make a bit of an early call and take one of the CPSs early. Just get some clean air and we'll see what happens.
Definitely sounds like a good plan to me. Of course, we know how quick you are, especially at pace at Watkins Glen when the car first came out. So we know what you're capable of. For the series, and going into the main game as well, of course, I think you're one of the favourites to make it through the cutoff period for this qualifying series. What do you think your expectations are if you were to make it through into the main series?
Top 10 in the championship would be nice, but you know, it's a long road ahead. So we're gonna make it through to that stage. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
No, sounds good to me, mate. All the best for tonight, and look forward to seeing you move through the field.
Too easy. Have a good one.
All right, well, that was Cody Deeth. Great to talk to him. Well, I might hand it back over to you, Scott, because I'll tell you what, we have a very, very exciting race just a couple of moments away.
Yeah, thanks, mate. The thing about commentary boxes is when you're the green one in the commentary box, you've got the longest digital walk right down the back of the grid, so I hope you enjoy getting miles in.
I'm out of breath, mate. Thanks a lot.
Well, Sandman's been down in the G Hub. You've been tinkering away. You've done so well again, Sandman, getting all of that together. But you've got some more statistics for us here on the screen. What's it worthwhile keeping an eye on, and what is that critical lap number?
What's that fuel burn we've been talking about? Critical lap number 7. But like we were talking about, I guess, off camera, it's going to be tyres. I think that these guys are going to be... Obviously, fuel's not the biggest issue for them, but... yeah, I reckon it's going to be tyres and everyone getting used to this car because, you know, it's a little bit of an unknown over a race distance for some of these drivers and around this racetrack. No doubt they would have done plenty of testing in the off-season. But, yeah, I think it's all going to be about rubber and who can look after their cars.
Righto, boys. We are about 20 seconds away from hitting that green flag. Who's going to take race number 1 in your books? Sandman, don't stand on the fence. Give me a name. Come on.
No, I said Emily. So I'm wrapped with her qualifying so far. I said that in the warm-up, so I'm sticking with Emily.
You got anyone, Bo, that you've got an eye on?
I'm going to throw it out to my old mate, Dylan Burse. I reckon he's going to have a good run from pole.
And I'm going to throw my weight behind Damon Wood, see if he can get it right. The first time in a new generation, the first time in a new formula. Here we go. Who can launch it from the front row of the grid? Laden supercars, all heavy, and have a look at them crawl over the road from left to right. Senaway was trying to get the elbows out, get aggressive early, hasn't managed to make some spots back up. Bowler's got a touch backwards, but it's the Eclipse Simsports front row. They convert it through the first corner, up and over the crest. Who's going to fire on through? Hobson got a great start as well. Pereira's slotted himself back in, and then Emily Jones, she's going to try and have a sniff as they get down through Clady's corner and up to Quebec corner to start the race off for the first time. 51 circuits, 133 litre fuel tanks, big new generation of V8 supercars, and boy have they crawled their way through the first lap.
Walking them through this section, just trying to keep single file. You don't want to do anything. It's so easy. Oh, there's contact.
There we go.
With the car gone round. Oh, he's managed to hold on to it. Great save. That could have been utter chaos there, but managed to get away with it, thankfully.
And it was Tom Freer in the 808 machine, the red Vermilion esports car, who's gone sliding down through the order. Already done 5 spots. Was 8 at the start of this race. Now he's back to 14th as Andrew Dyson, who's got one of the best beards in the business, slides down the inside, and Dean's going to go for it as well. So Cody Dean started out at 17th. He's already up to 14th. Said he could get aggressive on that opening lap, Bo, and he's done just that.
Yeah, he's had a phenomenal opening lap, doing exactly what he needed to, going the script, so that's great for him. But it's going to be a lot harder as the field is slowly begins to settle in, but they're not settling in behind as Hayden Veld finds himself racing with Brady Baldwin, and as well, Lachlan came back, door banging with Glenn Baldwin, and the fake contact, and almost the round goes Posy. He holds on to it in a phenomenal save, but look at the positions lost.
Yeah, Posey's going to lose about 5 or 6. He fires through turn 1. They're all got to feed in. 4-1, are you kidding me? Horton gets contact. Ryan Bettis, Jack Winnis was all involved. Serrano's going to try and scoot down through the inside. Are you kidding me? 51 laps, boys. 51 laps. And all anyone can think is, if I win, I'm in.
Right, supercars are back for 2025. It's Gen 3 racing and everyone is racing with elbows out. This is incredible. We've been some unbelievable saves just in the opening lap. Everyone just needs to take a bit of a breather and get settled in.
Oh, I think we're going to need to take a breather. We're all wound up on lap number 2 as Horton gets a little bit of a touch-up. Bradley Ratsu's going to try and go down the inside. Bumps him. Postlethwaite's got the report onto race control, so they'll be having a look at all of those little incidents, and my word, I cannot believe that it's already started with a ton of drama. About the only thing we're missing is a safety car on lap number 1. Now they'll try and settle themselves down on in. Michael Taliancic, one of the V8 veterans that races on a Thursday night, back once again. There's a few of them up and down the field. He's trying to go the long way around. Last season he had a golden ticket, didn't have to come through the quality series. This time around his elbows out with Josh Horton as they cut their way through the final corner. Horton's had a massive slide and contact on that lap, manages to keep it all together. Tally's still going to hold it down the inside, and when 44 cars come out to play, they come out to play in a big way. Burst sets the fastest lap of the race to open the account off, and he will lead laps number 1 and 2.
And I'm loving this side-by-side action. Sorry, Bo, but look at the amount of build-up that's on this. Sorry, Bo, go for it.
No, absolutely. I was going to comment on that battle between Horton and Taliancic. How was the door banging between all of them? Such aggressive racing early on, and look at this. You do not want to see 4 wide into turn 2 of Mosport. They made it happen. And look at the slide from Horton. How he saved that, I honestly will never know. That is phenomenal car control, as it still kept making off the corners on in. As I'm watching live as well, Ryan Bettis as well making contact and almost going for a spin as well. So I'll tell you what, this field is refusing to settle down at the moment. As look at Stanaway in this little gag here.
Something's just happened to Kobe Williams because he just mic'd up as well. Stanaway is all of a sudden in the middle of just this Hornet's nest. McNamara gets a little bit wide as they enter the S's. Deese going to slide on 2. Deese already up to P12. He said he was going to get aggressive. He's done just that. Dyson latches on. Stanaway's down the inside of Matthew Bowler at the last corner. And they're going to trade a little bit of paint. They're going to trade more than a little bit of paint. Rubbing and banging multiple times on the outside of the run down to turn 1. Bowler's going to try and hang it around the outside. Here comes Dyson down the inside. Now we'll be on the outside when they get down to turn 2. And this is the first OG Gear replay, second of the race. And this is what happened to Kobe Williams.
A little bit of contact there. Managed to keep it. Oh, man, if they had gone all the way around, it would have been so much further back. So managed to somewhat save it. But, mate, the car control that we've seen so far with these cars, like everyone has managed to get away. And there's been some massive, massive moments.
Tell you what, we were talking about who might need an energy drink to perk up. Well, the adrenaline's kicked into the comms box, boys. Bo, it's quite critical as a car racing driver. You got to manage that, because if you get the adrenaline up, you get the blood pumping. It's very, very easy to fire off those rear tyres. All of a sudden, you're burning them and going backwards.
Oh, absolutely. The second you start overdriving and trying a little bit too hard, it all starts to fall away from you. It sounds counterproductive, but trying hard sometimes works against you. But it truly is the case in motor racing. You have to be smooth, you have to be precise, and you need to just let your movements flow with the car. You cannot rush things. And you're seeing a lot of the drivers in the mid-pack at the moment are throwing the car around quite a lot, trying to make some early moves. But then we go on board with a driver inside or nearly inside the top 10, such as Andrew Dyson, and you can see it's a lot more controlled. It's just a little bit more settled. As we have Brady Baldwin off at the final corner, and his recovery onto the circuit. Sorry to change topic so quickly, but just spotted then that unfortunately for Brady, who was in the Pro Series last year, has gone off to a pretty rough start in the qualifying series.
Now, I think last season he was the very last car to qualify his way in on terms of points. So he just made the main game. He's put a year putting some time together, working and improving the way that he drives those cars. He's certainly made some big gains. This is going to be how that all happens. settle down at least 5 laps in, and it feels like we haven't had an opportunity to take a breath yet, Sam.
Yeah, that's what we're doing right now, isn't it? And that's what's important for these drivers and teams need to do too. Just get themselves in a little bit of a rhythm. They're not too far away from that critical lap for opening up the field. So people that have maybe had a drama at the start, they may be thinking about getting that pit stop over and done with early. But then, of course, you've got that unknown as far as what your tyres are going to do. Do you want to sort of stay out and hopefully have some of that grip later on? That's the bit that I'm interested in. But look at the build-up. Look at this coming onto the straightaway, the front straight. There's so much build-up around this racetrack.
And it's worthwhile noting as well, I've just taken a quick look through the orders. I was seeing a couple of cars that were out of sequence. First hard luck story of the night. Looks like Ryan Jones has unfortunately had some sort of hardware malfunction or failure. Finds himself 3 laps down at this point in time. Did not take the start of the race. So that is unfortunately how that one starts, Bo, and it's tough to climb your way back through it. Four races to get your qualifying season to go. That's not how you want to start it. Well, we can't talk about that because again, back in action, and again that was one of the OPR cars of Rain Campbell, who goes the long way round out into the marbles and lose a bunch of spots.
He had a touch. I thought he was going to fire nose head on into the tyre barrier. Managed to gather it up. So he had a little bit of contact there, but thankfully pointing in the right direction. Sorry, Bo, we were cutting you off there. So much was happening. Oh, now he's run wide too.
That's absolutely fine, Sam, because as you can see, there was so much going on. And it was Jake Blackhall up the inside. But you can see actually just a big snap almost. I don't know if there was quite contact with the Phoenix racing car behind there for Campbell, but just a big snap as he turned into turn 3. And that's what really set him off into losing a whole bunch of positions. As we go up to the field just a little bit more again, looking at Matthew Bowler and this little train which runs all the way from Jacob O'Reilly in position 7 and includes a whole tackle of cars down the field. So quite a big battle pack forming up here as we get another shot. And do we get a little bit of contact? We absolutely do. And that is why we saw Campbell losing so many spots.
Makes a lot more sense. There was a few cars, and that's how he got down the outside as well. Sort of had nowhere to go. But the Law try and check themselves back in. Stanaway, after unfortunate dramas in qualifying, managed to grab himself 3 spots. And this is Emily Jones we're on board with at this point in time. A little bit of a slide from the 61 machine of Dylan Pereira ahead. Senses an opportunity, and Pereira just goes, "Yep, I'm gonna sidestep and back up points. Find it too hard."
That was a good heads-up goal. I think he knew that the position was already gotten away from him, so it was just smart driving. Say open up the wheel a little bit, let Emily get past, and then just tuck in and have a go a little bit later.
We were just talking about Richie Stanaway. I've got an update for you. He gets himself a 15-second penalty for contact with the 994 machine. So that will be Kobe Williams. So that's what happened back at the hairpin in those early laps. Stanaway just picked off one of the cars as well. I thought it was Jacob O'Reilly. He's just picked off on the run down into the S's. Got a huge toe, picked him off. Now he's got to find 15 seconds worth of time. So he'll be hoping there's no safety cars because at the moment, the Lobs Esports Camaro looks quite quick.
Definitely does. Sorry, I got a bit distracted there because what I just witnessed, and I think what our producer's actually focusing on a bit, is Wayne Burke there didn't actually have any issues at turn 1, just turned in a little bit too late, got himself onto those marbles that Sandman was talking about earlier, and there was just zero grip out there. He just dragged and understeered and lost 3 positions in the process. We're getting another look at it now, and this really just highlights just how dangerous those marbles are. You can see Matthew Bowler up the inside, and then Wayne Burke cut down that front straight, and watch him just turns in a little bit late, obviously with the Bowler up the inside, and he just can't turn. There's absolutely zero grip out there, and he loses a bunch of spots from what would have otherwise only been 1 position lost.
Oh, how cool is that? Michael Taliancic goes through and sets the fastest up the race. So that is absolutely the undercut. So there'll be a bunch of drivers at the tail end of the field that were getting boxed in terms of their lap times because the entire pack ahead of them was fighting like you wouldn't believe. They've gone into the pit lane full fresh tyres. The first of those is Andre Yusuf Pitt at the end of lap number 2. Leads that little train. Ben Faulkner, Daniel Benefield, Chris Island, Anthony Visma, Michael Taliancic and Corey Preston has now pit as well, but Tally goes ahead and sets the fastest up of the race, albeit he's all the way down to 42nd at the moment, so that's strategy playing its way into this race early.
Right, yeah, it is, and it's always a little bit tough when you do need to try and make that early strategy call to get yourself out of traffic. because you compromise your second stop so much, and it's just this awkward ground of, you know, that second stint that you're running in the race that he's now doing, that he actually has to run it for so long, and it's really going to compromise him in terms of actual race distance, and also how he's managing those tyres, because he can't go full push even though he is setting the fast lap of the race. He needs to really make sure he manages those tyres, because he has a much longer stint length now to do than the rest of his competitors.
And worthwhile pointing out. All right, Bo, here's your opportunity to look like a very big, very fancy race car driver. You were talking to us about a little bit of strategy early on. You don't think that there will be some of these guys in these cars with full fuel tanks to start the race? You reckon that there will be a bunch of guys with quite a big hole in that tank to try and maximise some pace early?
Yeah, I do, because the reason for that is the actual refuel required for this race is actually relatively little. The drivers aren't looking about a huge amount of a refuel. It's maybe 20 litres or so across 2 stops. Now, obviously, we know this new Gen 3 supercar can take about 22 to 23 litres in the pits whilst changing tyres. We know the drivers are going to be changing tyres. It's a must in these cars. So what you can do is start the race with a little bit less fuel than a full tank. Now, the reason you would do that is because A, you can still make it to the end of the race comfortably if you take the minimum amount of fuel whilst changing tyres, which means the drivers can start the race with a slightly lighter car. We're talking about maybe only 40 litres or so, but that is still enough to make a significant gain versus starting the car on full fuel, because none of these drivers are going to try and do the race without taking tyres both stops. I just simply do not see it happening. So where you can save time in the pits is by fuel, and I'm sure that game already started before the cars even hit grid at the start of the race.
So thank you for a bunch of insights there. And the other thing I think as well is with those lighter cars as well, it actually adjusts what the ride heights are. You can tick with things that when the cars actually completely fall, might be out of bounds tech-wise. So it gives the drivers another little advantage. So something we'll be keeping an eye on as things progress. In the meantime, more angry cars on the run down to Moss Corner. And that is the 27 machine that slides down the inside. Tyson Broad goes and picks himself off a spot and moves one spot further through on Jake Blackwell. That's a car that's way out in the marbles. That is Damon Mulqueen rolling around at the tail end of the field. Unfortunately for him, not having the greatest night at the moment. The reason he's out there, Sam, is this.
Exactly right here on the OG Gear replay. Man, it's an awful feeling. Bo can touch on this, just say he's hot from the driver's seat, is that when you touch those marbles, you're just a passenger. You put that much steering lock in it and you know the thing's not going to turn. It must be a horrible, horrible feeling.
Oh, there's nothing worse, and I relate back to that with what I mentioned earlier about the race, the official race myself and Robbie Gibbs did, where we were first and second. We thought there was clear track. There always has been clear track when you're first and second in a race, but a lapped car or a car further down the field.
What? Hang on. We're going to have to run over you guys. There was a huge moment down at Moss Corner right there. We've got a car heavily in the barriers. Joshua Horton's got around. Tyson Broad was another one. I just caught it out of the corner of my eye on my screens. And this is going to tell this story, because this is a huge moment. This is Broad trying to get down the inside. He just made the overtake, bounces over the curb, and around goes Horton.
A little bit of a clumsy incident there, unfortunately. It's such a hard corner, especially for the driver being overtaken. Because of the camber in the road there, it really is almost a one-line corner. But obviously when you've got a car on the inside, you need to give racing room. And unfortunately there, just two cars met in the middle, because the car on the outside there just tried to sort of survive, essentially, the overtake. Because, you know, if you're turning too late, you're going off the road anyway. So his only chance was to turn in and just hope that Tyson Broad on the inside wouldn't drift out too much. And unfortunately, that's what happened.
We're going to try and settle back in. Something's just happened to Greg Favell at the last corner on lap 10. So we'll be having a look away for that one. We did pick up another penalty in the drive-through. Kobe Williams was serving it when we cut to him a few moments ago. So he served a drive-through penalty, and that was for contact a number of laps ago. Was actually... Yep, that's Postlethwaite. He's just getting boxed about the ears. And not able to settle in at all. Front five are sort of broken away, sitting really comfortably at the moment. Emily Jones, we did see a few shots. Obviously, this will be the incident for Fell. And that is another one of those black cars. So Brad Ratchet, unfortunately, makes contact. And yeah, Aussie's stuck and going backwards at this point in time. He had a great start, so he did make a fair few positions on that one. He started 19th, well, he's back to 19th, and now he's starting to drift backwards a little bit, Sam, and he's feeling a bit worse for that.
Yeah, I guess you can start to think about maybe a pit stop might do him a world of good, put a fresh set of Dunlops on board and just see how the car and the race plays out. There's no, we've seen plenty of action so far, none that have warranted a safety car, but don't rule it out. You just never know. So, yes, your night's probably not going exactly to plan, and the car's, maybe getting belted around a little bit, but there's still plenty of laps in this. We're only lap 13 or 51, so it's still a lot to play out. Obviously, it's not ideal when you're a little bit further back in the pack, but still far from over for any of these drivers that are in this race.
He's got to try and settle himself back in. Jack Wooders is the attacking driver just in behind him. He is going to be cracking him as soon as he possibly can. And 092 machine picks himself up a penalty as well, which is Jack Andrews. Fortunately for him, a Phoenix Racing entry will have 5 seconds added to his post-race time, which is 6 more penalties coming through as well. More drama, and this will be on Dylan O'Shea. No, just a move done nice and easily down the inside, and that will be Richie Stanaway. So, qualifying car wasn't great for the Lobbs Esports driver, but the race pace has been phenomenal. His ability to look after that tyre and still press forward. He's got 15 seconds worth of time to make up, but he's doing a cracking job of that.
That's the thing that's going to be almost impossible for him to bounce back, especially if we get a safety car that we were just touching on. That's the last thing he wants to see right now. But yeah, it certainly makes your night that's just that little bit more difficult when you've got a penalty, a time penalty hanging over your head. If it's 5 seconds, you can sort of maybe race that and maybe get that margin. But a 15-second penalty, he's definitely got himself. He's got his work cut out for him. There's no doubt about that.
So we're starting to see roughly about 12 cars now that have already made their first pit stops and got themselves out of that queue. 2 pit stops here tonight, and I'm going to put this one to you guys. I'm normally pretty much an even split kind of guy. Are you thinking undercut early on here, Bo? Or is that track position relevant?
I think it's very track position relevant. I think for those guys, especially that top 8 or so who really had a bit of a breakaway early on, I think you're actually going to see them go a little bit longer and just protect themselves a little bit from that late safety car. If that does happen, they're not going to get caught out on old tyres versus drivers behind on new tyres. So I think for them, they'll definitely stay out. But if you are in the mid-pack, I'm liking this undercut, and I've got to put my hand up. I am a constant fiend when it comes to going for the undercut in almost every series I've ever done. But yeah, for these drivers, it's just all track position relevant. How's your race? How's your pace relative to the guys in front? Do you think you're racing with drivers that equal pace to you, or do you think you're quicker than them? And if you are, how do you get past them? Strategy is always a key point.
And as we saw, Brent Thompson actually have a big wiggle as he got on power just there, coming out of turn 3, Quebec corner. The thing I'll put to you, Sandman, is it's time for you to coin that lovely, lovely phrase. What are they called? 4 Dr. Watts?
4 Dr. Feelgoods, mate. Give themselves a fresh set of Dunlops and off they go. But I'd be interested for, especially the drivers in the top 4 or 5, the first one to maybe get the pit lane maybe a lap earlier before anyone else, just to maybe make a little bit of track position. Obviously, you don't want to jump too early, but I reckon it would be interesting to see one of these drivers maybe peel off a lap or 2 earlier and try and get position.
The other question I'll put to you is it's a 15-second transit from end to end the pit lane. That's going to result somewhere around a 10 to 12-second delta, plus the time that you're static in the pit lane as well. So you're looking at about 22 seconds. I think if you're coming for fresh tyres, you want that fresh air. So until that hole opens up, I think you're staying out too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, fresh air is king in any series. It doesn't matter what series it is. It's always what you want as a driver. So for them, at the moment, they're going to be looking a lot at where do they actually feed in after their pit stop. And at the moment, with those drivers sort of in the top 10 to top 25 range, none of them have really gone in for a pit stop either just yet. That's sort of making those top few drivers even more comfortable knowing that they don't have an undercut or any threat from an undercut from any drivers behind at the moment. They can just keep hitting their marks, doing their own thing. And I think it's one of those cases where you'll see someone from the top 15 pit, and then, oh boy, the floodgates will open and everyone will be diving in.
More drama as the Marine Supersports cars get down into Moss corner of the hairpin, and out and on to the Mario Andretti straight away. down the back straight. It's not really a straight. There's lots of little kinks in it, lots of little crests. But therein lies the character of Canadian Time Motorsport Park. Tom Freer locking up as he goes deep. That'll be potentially some of those marks he put on those tyres early on. Pinches the brake, no grip, down and deep. And that is going to be a difficult position to continue his recovery from tonight.
He actually did well not to actually make the tyre barrier because it's so easy to carry too much speed, especially in that part of the racetrack. And just to get away with it without making any contact, I think he did really well.
Guys that have currently pitted, this is our leader at the moment, down at about 30th spot or so, 31st on the windscreen banner. And talking about Glenn Postlethwaite, he had a car that wasn't acting all that well because he had some damage on it, some heat in those tyres. The other thing I was just watching was Tom Freer, and he looks like he's struggling for grip in the front end of that car after he locked those brakes up. So you're thinking that might be a marker. Once you put a mark on those tyres again, Bo, that might be a time to jump in the lane, yeah?
Absolutely, and I think the bigger issue if you do go for a lock-up here on iRacing is probably the tyre temperature more than anything. These cars are still super sensitive. If you do overheat the tyres, they do take a little while to come back. They're a little bit more forgiving than the Gen 2 tyres were, but they still punish you for a good lap or two, and I think that's what Tom's going through right now. So if he is committed to going a little bit longer, then it will come back to him and he will be okay. It's just going to be a little bit of 1 or 2 laps of pain at the moment that he really has to fight through. But just while I'm here, to touch on as well that last lap around, the quickest car in the top 6 was Richie Stanaway. So a lot of the guys in the top 5 were doing 19.9s to 120.0s. Richie Stanaway did a 19.8 and has just backed it up again as the quickest car in that top 6. So don't rule out Richie Stanaway just yet, even if he does have that penalty hanging over him.
So 15 seconds he'll drop through the field at the moment, and he sits 3 seconds off the lead. 15 seconds, about 18 seconds behind our race leader. That's going to pop him out about 23rd spot on the road. So he's certainly going to want to run long and try and let that hole open up for him at the moment. 18 laps in, 51 laps the distance. We're past 1/3 of our race distance right about now. Looking to see potentially some more of the field start to come in. We'll keep an eye on Glenn Postlethwaite's progress, what his lap times look like. Match times with the race leaders that last time by. This might be a supremely quick lap for him, so he'll be looking to try and make some margin. And we're going to have another look at a replay. There's an alternative shot. Tom Freer. A couple times now over at Moss Corner, so issues with pulling the front end of the car up. And cannot get the car pulled up, but he's saved that one a lot better there, Stan.
Yeah, again, it's hard to get stuff, especially that part of the racetrack. He's just thankful to stay off the tyres, but yeah, it can also get a little bit frustrating when you start to do it lap after lap too. So, but straight race car, there's still a long way to go.
Set ourselves in. Coming up on 20 laps. Well, if the critical lap number is lap 7, I'm assuming these guys can get through somewhere to about lap 44 if they had those tanks full. 40 litres less. That means we might be targeting somewhere in the mid-30s. So might see a lot of these guys go long. Tyre fall off. New generation of tyre here at Bo. Talk to us a little bit about the longevity and what the pace is like on these tyres throughout the stint.
Yeah, the big thing with these new tyres is there's actually quite a big drop-off initially in the stint. So the first few laps are pretty good, but then around probably lap 6 to 7 in the tyres, you'll notice the car does actually fall off a fair bit and it doesn't hit that same peak speed anymore. But then it does go through this bit of plateau period like the old car did as well. So if you can get through that initial bit of graining or tyre temperature phasing that the tyre does actually go through, it does come back to you a little bit, but the actual drop-off in terms of wear versus tyre lap time delta actually isn't that bad. You can actually throw this car around a fair bit, maybe use 20% more tyre wear than a teammate, and the lap times can still be relatively the same. It has a nice little crossover there, which does actually mean the tyre allows for quite a flexible range of driving styles, which I really like because again, with my teammates, I drive the car a little bit differently to one of my other teammates. We can still punch out nearly identical lap times over a race run. So for the drivers, they can play with that just a little bit. but overall the drop-off does go through this plateau period. So for these drivers right now, that's why you're seeing them hit these consistent 119.9s to 120.1s at the front. The tyres in that nice little plateau, they can just hit that lap after lap without worrying about too much of a cliff drop-off.
Yeah, I was just watching this shot on my computer as well. So Richie Stanaway has crawled his way up to, he took 0.3 of a second out of Dylan Pereira on that most recent lap. Again, quickest car on the track, 0.3 of a second out of our race leader. It is starting to get tight at the top. And we talked to the Eclipse Motorsport teammates. They're going to play it fair, they're going to play it nice to each other. But if Damon Woods has got some pace to show, Sandman, he's going to want to get the elbows out soon.
That's just it too. I was thinking about the catch-22 that I guess Richie might find himself at the moment, because he's obviously got pace on board as the tyre wears on. So there's no shine in speed for the cars and the drivers he's got around him. But does he think about an early pit stop to leapfrog these guys and get that tiny little bit of margin? Some fresh air with some fresh tyres to leap these guys might do the world of good. But again, like we touched on, it's all about where do you come out in the pack and do you come out in traffic.
To keep an eye on the stories as the race progresses. Cody Deeth, one of the other Eclipse Sport drivers, finds himself at the back end of the top 10 at the moment. He's ranged up onto Andrew Dyson for a driver that started out at 17. He's done a phenomenal job to progress his way through the pack to sit inside the top 10. I don't think we've actually seen anyone inside the top 10 yet make their pit stop. Tom Freer has dived into the pit lane. He has said, enough's enough. I'm sick of locking up, I'm sick of going deep. He wants himself 4 Dr. Feelgoods, and he has found not only some feel good, but some feel quick as well as he goes to the top of the timing sheets in a 1 lap pace. So pace is out there, and Freer is now throwing down the gauntlet. By the way, worthwhile keeping an eye on him. He's caught drivers. We've now got 11 lap older tyres on him, so he's going to get the elbows out as well.
Well, yeah, he's going to need to, isn't he? He's got a lot of cars now to overtake, but definitely plenty of speed to do so as well. So the delta initially at the start of the run, he's going to be finding nearly a second a lap on some of these drivers. He's going to be flying. You can see here, it's not going to be the hardest overtake, I don't think, with a fellow teammate, in fact, team manager as well in Ben Faulkner there. So a nice and easy overtake there for Tom Freer, but he's got Brian Borg ahead. That'll be a slightly tougher overtake to manage. But with those tyres, you're going to see him range onto the back of the 017 Mustang. The difference in speed is phenomenal. And yeah, just last lap around, obviously, nearly 0.3 quicker than Brian Borg, who himself has gone for an early pit stop as well. So plenty of speed in all these cars. We're going to OG gear replay. And it's going to be Richie Stanaway. He's going to go up the inside of Dylan Pereira. I tell you what, that was very nice and very forgiving, but very open to the overtake. Was Dylan Pereira. He knew that wasn't worth fighting too much. Oh dear, is this going to be an issue for Dylan Pereira, who we're just talking about what has happened here, and with hearing that he possibly has popped the engine.
Yeah, there's no sound at the back end of that one. There is no fire, and that could be the first of the new BMW safety cars that will get deployed to the circuit. So he's in behind, Stanaway. Downshift through the gears on the randomized corner, and the engine has expired for the number 61 Synergy Sim Racing entry. That is going to make his qualifying series exceptionally hard, and here they all come. They hear the opportunity for there to be a safety car, and look at the horde of Hornets that range their way into pit lane. The 2 at the front, they know they're in the front 2 stalls. 1, 2, 3 in pit lane. Make sure you pull it up nice and accurately, and it is going to be on after a safety car restart. We're just waiting for it to be deployed. It has not been deployed, but it has now been deployed. First time for the safety car, and Brenton Hobson has jumped the pair of them. Wow. What have they done? Did they put too much fuel in? Something's going on there.
He's been fuel saving, hasn't he? Cheeky Brenton Hobson, I can almost guarantee, whilst the Eclipse cars did all the hard work out in front, cheeky Brenton Hobson, we know he loves a fuel save. He loves to throw a bit of a strategy curveball out there. That's what he's done. I can almost put my money on it, because we're looking at a pit stop that is nearly 1.5 seconds quicker than the 2 drivers he was racing.
We need to have a look at the pit lane entry, because I was just having a look at Damon Woods' rear end, and there's damage on the left rear corner. I think he'll be totally fine. I don't think it's going to impact his race, and it came from the driver we're watching the onboard shots of at the moment, Brent Hobson, and it was on the pit lane entry. So Lobo's got into the back of him. I haven't heard any words of it being reported to race control, so I don't think it's under investigation. But Hobbo's going to get himself some track position. Keep your eyes on this one as you cut your way down. It's a tight pit lane entry here at Canadian Tire Mosport Park. And there's the checkup. Bang. So that's an aggressive pit lane entry. Well, they were in the pit lane before the safety car was called. So this is reading your rule books and knowing what you're doing. They were in the pit lane before the safety car was called. This counts as 2 separate pit stops, 2 separate compulsory pit stops because they were in the lane before the safety car was called. This is what reading your rule book does for you, boys.
Game changer. And that's what helps when you've got these teams that are sitting there, you've got people in the background that are working with you. You can just concentrate on driving. But if you've got someone there that can, like you said, read the rule books and call the race for you, this is where races can be won and lost. And these teams have capitalised on this pit stop strategy. And this is pure brilliant.
Oh, Bo, this is brilliance. Where do you find marks of brilliance like this? It's awareness, isn't it? And sometimes it's being in a series. You just understand the rules a little bit better, which a lot of these guys that have done their strategies certainly are. They're veterans of the series.
Well, that's what I'm just thinking right now. I'm blown away. I thought Brenton Hobson was being smart. He wasn't being smart. He was being genius. This is fantastic. And that's going to be a huge advantage because he currently sits just position 8 on the road. And he's now going to be in a great spot, but he's not alone. We also have Jacob O'Reilly behind in the Vermilion Esports car and Emily Jones. 3 drivers that have been around this series enough to know the rulebook inside out, going for an alternate strategy to the drivers who are making their first ever Pro Invitational of any kind, whether it be qualifying series or main series rounds. As a primary driver, this is their first round. They don't know the rulebooks inside out yet.
Oh boy,
that was just a little bit close there under safety car conditions. But yeah, what a great strategy for both Hobson, O'Reilly and Jones.
I'll be right back, boys. I'm going to get a copy of the rulebook. I'm going to go digging for the articles. I'm going to point them out to you, but give me a few moments.
How good is that they've actually dissected this and thrown the dice and said, you know what, we've managed to get our pit stop over and done with before the safety car came out, and then they were able to fire back in. Mate, the others
Clips are responding. Sorry to cut across, but the Clips are responding. They're pitting. But what's going to happen now is the safety car train is so long, they're going to end up losing so much track position. Sorry to cut across you there, Sandman, but that is huge for our race.
Yeah, I don't... Oh, just check it out. Almost that nose to tail contact with everyone checking up on the safety car. But yeah, and you can see here, they just have to wait for the entire field to go past. So this has killed them. I touched on it in the Logitech G Hub. I said the one thing that could really mess with strategy is a safety car, and we showed our gorgeous BMW Logitech G safety car. Unfortunately, it's just thrown an absolute spanner in the works for these drivers, and they've gone to dead motherless last.
They have, and maybe an unsafe rejoin there for, was that Dylan Burst as well? I don't know how that's going to be looked at, but race controllers, they almost make contact out of pit lane. And Richie's not happy with that. I reckon we're going to see some race control calls there because Dylan Burst was not in the fast lane when rejoining the circuit there. But you are not wrong, Sam, man. This has turned the race on its head, and arguably 2 of the quickest cars in the entire field are now buried in 39th and 40th position in the race, and that's not the fast lane from Dylan Burst, I have to say.
Yep, Stewards will be definitely looking at that. A little bit of contact there too, but wow. That just goes to show just how quick your night can change. You know, you think you are leading this race, you've got everything working for you, you've got clear air, you're thinking about a pit stop, all of a sudden there's a safety car, and now you find yourself going from the leader of the race to almost dead last. Like, that's just unreal.
Okay, it's heartbreaking, but that's the risk of the safety car, isn't it? What do you got for us, Scott?
I haven't got anything. So I went digging for the rulebook. I can't access, I haven't got a copy of the rulebook that I can refer to. But what I can remember was from last year. I remember it being one of those things whereby it comes down to when the safety car's called, if you're in pit lane or not. If you are in pit lane when the safety car calls, you can continue with the pit stop. I remember that being a very, very key part to that. I wanted to go digging it out so I could actually give you the rules to have a look at. So we had something to have a look at, put up on screen. That's one of those things you've got to do down the Logitech G Hub. I can guarantee you're going to be sitting there with your rulebook printed out next week. Sandman going, here's the important bit.
Well, that's what these teams need to do. As we see the safety cars now made its way to pit lane. So we're in about ready to go back to green, lap 25 of 51. This is round number 1 at Mosport. This is just the qualifying series, ladies and gentlemen, for 2025. We've seen plenty of action at the start of this race, and no doubt it's going to get much juicier as the laps go on.
Here we go. Cody Deeth has got control of the field, so he hands it over from one set of the Eclipse Sim Sports teammates. It's now on to another one. McNamara is going to be following down the front straight as well. It's all going to be on in behind them. Now we've got mixed up strategies. We've got guys on new tyres. We've got guys on old tyres. The front 5 or so cars not necessarily in this one in terms of their strategy. Hobson's the first of the drivers who leads, who's potentially made double pit stops, but have a look at them all fighting deeper in the field as well. Nose to tail contact as they make their way down through Clayton Corner for the first time on the restart. Burke's going to slide it down the inside. They're all trying to find somewhere they can park it back up. Postlethwaite got elbowed just a touch wide. Now who's able to make themselves some gains? And have a look at that 2 wide on the run down here. This is going to be tight. They all managed to feed back in. First run down to Moss Corner complete. Everyone's snaking it up in a train. There's contact. There's more nose to tail contact. Around goes the 34. Benefield's been wrecked. You stack up at the back end of the field. Cars are around everywhere. And I think that might be Brady Baldwin in his second incident of the night. It's not gone well for him.
It's unreal. Talk about bringing back the biff. Gen 3. These guys have not given an inch. There's so much biff and barge that we've seen in these opening 25 laps. It's been incredible, but man, oh man. I think there was a couple other people that were almost close to getting involved in that. I think everyone's managed to get away with not too much damage, but
I'm watching Kurt Stanberg, and he has got a very bent race car. He just cannot keep it on the track at the moment, and he's on the wrong side of the road. The pit lane entry is on the right-hand side of the road. He can't get to the lane this lap, so he's going to have to continue on. Stanaway goes down the inside. He is on an absolute tire burner as they try and cut their way through the field. First, and Woods are trying to cut their way through. Some of the fastest cars now down the back. They've got to pick off spots because now they've got half the race left, and they're at the back. They're on the back foot, and they've got to find some way through. Here it goes. This is going to be a barnstormer. If you were sitting there and thinking it was slowly trickling out, oh boy, you better go and get a cup of coffee because this thing's just been set into overdrive, Sandman.
It's exactly what you just touched on. I mean, there was a lot of people they had a pretty fair idea of how the rest of this race was going to play out. If we go back to an OG replay, this is a nose-to-tail action that you caught, bang, sideways, in front of the field. So many other cars got into it. It could have been a lot worse for so many different people. She's taken to the grass there, spinning, just trying to pick his way through. So, man, unbelievable.
If he didn't cut his way through there, he was going to be locked up and with nowhere else to go. And race car drivers don't like sitting static watching the field trundle on by them. So it was, realistically, it was one way or the other, and he picked the right way. And this is the onboard. Stenwick down to Moss. You can just see pile up. Well, he's actually done well to avoid it. Now he's got to rejoin the racetrack. So, not too bad. Lights it up. Get a whack in the back, I think, somewhere in the middle of that. And that's where the race car got a bit bent. But,
that was him trying to get the throttle down too and all that garbage on his tyres.
All right, now we're going to take a little bit of a moment to try and grab a picture of the race as it stands. Deeth, McNamara, Bettis, and Ratu, all one pit stop and one pit stop only. Take them out of the running order. They're not relevant to this front group. Kobe Williams, also one pit stop. He has been through the lane for a drive-through penalty. Tyson Broad inside the 10, only one pit stop. Tice Hodge, also one stop. And Rain Campbell down in 14. Those are the cars inside your top 20 who have yet to make 2 pit stops. But the leaders on effective strategy, Hobson, O'Reilly, Emily Jones. Those are your front 3, and then we're going to keep an eye on. And then, Bo, this changes the script of the racing as well. This is where you need a spotter to say, hey, yes, you need to fight that car. They've done 2 pit stops, and they have it. How critical is it having a second voice in your ear at this point of the race?
It's super critical, especially for someone like Brenton Hobson right now, who doesn't need to do anything rash or aggressive on the likes of Ratu or Betes in front. He just needs to control his pace, control his track position right now over Jacob O'Reilly. So I do believe the SSR car has pace over the Vermilion car, so he just needs to make sure his eyes forward, not doing anything too crazy. Go on board with O'Reilly. Looking back at Kobe Williams, don't forget, Kobe Williams did have a drive-through earlier in the race, so he still owes us one more pit stop as well. So he's out of the order as well. But O'Reilly and Hobson, yeah, spotters are so crucial for these guys, knowing who they need to race, who they don't need to, because you just can't afford, at a track where there is just so much or so little time between each of the cars, you can't afford to be giving up 2-3 seconds in a lap going side by side with a car who's going to pit in 10 laps anyway.
It's worthwhile walking through after that restart and just picking up some of the cars that are walking wounded at the moment. Andre Yusuf's got a fair bit of damage. He's trying to cut through. Jack Widders was the car that got into the back of everyone and initiated that major incident down at Moss Corner. And just listening to Dylan Burst was just on the radio trying to communicate some of the race control. That hasn't been followed through on. I think the reason that it's not really been followed through on is Stanaway is out and boxing on with him, and Stanaway's had pace this entire race. He will get the job done on Burst. Got the power down really, really nicely. That's allowed David Woods a little bit of breathing room, and these guys are going to be important to keep half an eye on as well, because they've got pace at this point in time. Woods is going to try and range up in the back end of this, guys. That's Christopher Ireland who's out in the marbles just ahead of him, and here we go, side by side, down through the S's. Canadian Tire Mosport Park. It's a tiny little racetrack, but that doesn't mean it's not got tons of character, and there was a touch-up from Woods. Here comes Damon Woods, who's going to cut his way through. Ireland loses a spot. Jake Blackhole cuts his way through, but he's got to try and find some way to get it done. And keep an eye on Richie Centaway. Look how far back he's going to send this one from, and this is why he got along the side of Dylan Burst in the back straight away. That is a supreme overtake. Got the elbows out. Biggie gets it done.
Yeah, that was a nice move. Just got track position, and you can see, still fighting there. Stanaway's now got a nose in there. Thankfully, they all got away with it. Man, Richie's been in the thick of it, but thankfully, again, they're all sort of pointing in the right direction. That could have got real ugly real fast. But how's the feeling between Burst and Woods? You know, they were sitting here just cruising along, thinking they were probably on target to maybe take a win. Oh, move up the inside there, the TTR car. Plenty of room given there. But here they were thinking about possibly the win, and now they're back in the pack fighting for their life.
Well, that's Kurt Stenberg. He had a really, really damaged lap race car just a few moments ago. Still managing to hang on to it at this point in time. Still down the inside of Christopher Ireland as it currently stands. And we are going to have to keep our eyes on those guys. They were at the back of the field. About 41st, 42nd, 43rd on the restart. Guess where they are already? Damon Woods has gained about 8 spots already, up to 33rd. So that's where those three are cutting their way through. They're at the back end of that train, and the field spread. We need to keep an eye on what's going on up front, because we've got drivers up there that haven't been up there, that we weren't expecting to see at the front end of this race, and they've got to do something funky. And guess what? There's a veteran in the middle of them as well. It's Sean McNamara, and he would know the rules and the regs of the series. I guarantee you he looked at the pit lane entries and went, I wasn't in the lane, I can't get 2 compulsory stops done as we crest the hill. Cody Deet heads this chain, and the implications of this, remember, 4-round series. You make one mistake, you finish way out in the wings in one round, it could be series over, Bo, and I think that's what's going on for these guys. We can't even take a moment to talk about that. It's still on because Tyson Broad just got a little bit elbowed out of the way, so now he's feeling a little bit aggressive. Boy, the 4-round, the shorter series, I think, is creating some of this drama. It creates intense racing. You know what? Let's run 3 series this year. 4 rounds for you, Bo? Or do you prefer the long season-long car?
Oh, I don't think I can handle that level of stress, to be quite honest. That's pretty full on. And I mean, you know, I started last season's qualifying series with a bad round as well. And the pressure it puts on you for the remaining 3 rounds is immense. I was lucky I was able to get 2 podiums and dig myself out of that. But we saw just then with the Eclipse guys, there's so many things in this racing series that can just happen out of nowhere, out of your control, and ruin your result. It is a constantly evolving sport. With the things like, you know, dynamic track and the safety cars we have in this series, there is more and more elements you have to factor in to each and every one of these races. You cannot for a moment think you are safe. You have to be on your toes at all points as these drivers are finding out. So we take a look back at some of the drivers further in the pack. We saw Brian Borg there with a gaggle of cars all around him. And look at this, up the inside, Talyancic goes side by side there, gets shuffled around and nearly brake checks Jake Blackhall. And out of nowhere, here comes Damon Woods up the inside at a 180 km/h corner, gets it done. Now Talyancic gives a bump to the back of Damon Woods, nearly turns him, still pushing. He's got Stanaway in the rear bumper of him as well. Nose the tail onto the back straight. And now look at Dylan Burst getting a big tank slap on corner exit 2. This is out of control. These guys, I said at the start, they have more aggression in them. Will they need to use it? Well, I said to Cody, do you need to use it to get through the field? Now with 3 or 4 of the Eclipse cars, they need to use more aggression and make their way through the field fast.
Well, I'm going to make a couple of comments here, and this will go out to all of our real-world supercars fans. We're dealing with a little bit of a new format where you're winning your in-style situation. Think about supercars in the final series. Is this a precursor? Is this a prelude to what we might see with the real cars this year when we get to the final series for the first time around. Just think about that for a little while, fans. Let me know your thoughts. Sandman, what do you think? Are you all for this final series business? You like turning left? You like a little bit of oval stuff?
You don't want to hear it. I'm not a fan. I'm a traditionalist. I don't want to see. I don't like what they do in the Cup Series, and now that they've introduced it to supercars, I don't know. I'm not a fan myself, but I do like the aggression that we're seeing tonight. And if we see this sort of hard racing, because when we know there's going to be a supercars championship on the line in the field, then I think the racing is going to be brilliant.
There's some bump drafting going on at the moment. This is Bradley Ratcher and Ryan Bates both going toe-to-toe at the moment as they crest the hill. Orbit drop there, Motorsport. Entry of Brad Ratcher. Odds off the blackout OPR car. Ryan Bates and Brenton Hobbs is just forced to sit along and wait and go. I'm in the pole position for potentially getting a win and in style situation tonight. He does not want to see this sort of battling and elbows out racing going on ahead of him.
And the beauty is, he said, it's win and you're in, but you win and you're in and you're out too. You don't have to compete, or you don't compete in the next 3 races if you win tonight. So it's basically all about trying to get the checker. And if you can't get the checker first, then you've got to get the absolute best position possible so you can be there at the end after the 4 weeks.
Think about Jacob O'Reilly, who sits just in the background of these guys. He's made 2 pit stops. He's sitting in a supreme spot. This is probably the best he's looked thus far. Could you imagine if something happens to Hobbo ahead of him, he becomes the leader? The guys that are on 2-stop, auto qualifies his way in. That was not on the cards we got here. Would he make the series? Yes, you'd probably sit there and say he's good enough to be there, but a win and in round 1 of the qualifying series, anything can and will happen, as we've already seen tonight. We are heading towards 17.5 laps left to run at the back end of this straight. The tip into the final corner, 17 more laps to run, and you felt that was coming.
Oh, no, what has happened here from Michael Taliancic facing the wrong way? As, look at these two once again, side by side. It's Richie Stanaway and Dylan Burst. They're not quite knocking mirrors off yet, but I'm sure it's coming as they head into the braking zone of this super tight right-hander. It's so quick. Up to the inside goes Burst, and Stanaway just lets him have it. But we've seen so many times already in this short race how many returns has been. How has this all happened? It's Richie Stanaway looking up the inside. Just the smallest of touches into the back of Michael Taliancic sends the 777 around. As just quickly, I've also noticed up the front of the field, Emily Jones now is ahead of Kobe Williams. That's huge, as Kobe now having to fight off Wayne Burke there in the Vermilion Esports, his debut for Vermilion Esports as well. But that's big for Emily Jones, because just before that, she was the only one of the leaders besides Cody Deeth to be in the 119s. Ratcher's around one of the leaders.
No, Ratcher's going to rotate it. We go to the replay. We're going to cut straight back to live pictures. Brad Ratcher was inside the top 5, and now he falls by the wayside. This just continues to add moment-by-moment action. Where is this coming from? New car, new generation, new kinds of drama.
The old theory of making supercars great again, I think it was all about bringing Gen 3 to iRacing. We've seen some incredible racing, bit of a dive there. It's cost him, gone around. But man, oh man, absolutely just heartbreaking when you're in a position like that and give away so many spots towards the end of this race.
And he's going to have to make another pit stop, and Ratcher's going to dive into the lane. So his pit stop now done after getting rotated. Dived it down the inside of the wily veteran of Sean McNamara. Did not work out. He goes sinking through the field. Hobson escalates inside of the top 5 to 4 spot. O'Reilly joins him. Emily Jones. Those are your top 3 on effective strategy. Kobe Williams now ranges up. Gets into the marbles and bowls are wide. So I think we'll be seeing a little bit of that this season, Sandman.
Yeah, that's crazy, the amount of deg that we're seeing on the side of this racetrack. It's incredible. And look at the front of the car. Look, Hobbo's car, all the marks and that, the rubber debris just bouncing off the front of the car. It's really something they're going to have to be mindful as the season goes on. We've been talking about that build-up all race long, and that's got to play in your mind too. I guess, though, when you're in a position where you know that you've got to get the job done and maybe make a pass on someone, you've got a second guess as far as making sure you do it in the right spot and not get caught up from those marbles.
Oh, absolutely. You cannot afford to go around the outside anymore. It's one of those things. You used to be able to try something around the outside if you're risky, but that's going to get so much harder now. That slowly doesn't become an option in these cars anymore with the kind of tyre debris that we're seeing ahead of these drivers as Ryan Betes dives into the pits and will eliminate himself from this battle at the front of the field. So a bit of clean air for Brenton Hobson, which is good, and maybe he can try and escape, because I tell you what, at the moment, Jacob O'Reilly is under all kinds of pressure from Emily Jones. She is looking really good as this race continues to go on. And we'll have a look at Cody Deacon, of course, our race leader currently, and he's gone very wide into the marbles. We just keep saying it, don't we, that you get a single wheel out of those marbles, there is no coming back.
Well, the other thing to consider as well is something that's just popped up on my timing screens. There was 15 seconds already for Richie Stenaway. He's picked himself up another 30 seconds of penalties. And we were saying he's going to need the field spread. Well, they got a safety car, they bring them all back together. That's 30 seconds worth of penalties. I just get the feeling he's going to finish right at the back, unfortunately, tonight. Strategy might be his saving grace. He might gain a couple of spots further back. You just can't afford that in the quality series. That might be the first of our drivers who might already be looking at a win in his end, but he's got the pace. Yes, Sam.
Absolutely, and that's the bit that would be disappointing for him tonight, because he knew he had pace, and the pace that we saw when it was about lap 20 odd at the start of this race, he was on 20 lap old tyres around everyone else, and his pace was up there. Like, he was quicker than the people that he was around, so he knows he's got pace on board. Unfortunately, tonight's got away from him. He needs to focus on the next round.
So it'll be potentially a testing session for the rest of the night for him. Dive at the last corner, by the way. Daniel Battlefield just got down the inside of Josh Horton, and guess who's going to be the big winner out of all that one? It's one of the guys we need to keep an eye on. Damon Woods just picked himself up 2 spots for free, boys. Don't you like a good old 2-for-1?
No, it's very good for Damon. He needs every position he can right now, because we know he's got the pace. There's so much of an opportunity for him to win a race in this season and probably lock himself in. But look at this, just a very tight battle up front, the smallest bit of contact, and Damon's like, hey, look, that looks pretty good. I might just take this exit traction and take you both into turn number 1. So his charge is going very well into 25th now, but I think what he'll really be looking at is that minus 23 positions from where he started, and that's going to be hurting him a lot still, regardless of where he finishes tonight.
Big marker for him at the moment, though. Back to 25th, so yep, definitely could have been putting a win in the books, unfortunately, tonight. It's not gone that way, but the big key is to bank some points. Cody Teeth is plus 16 at the moment. We're looking at those positions gained as it currently stands. They don't mean a terrible lot for a bunch of those guys. Brent Hobson sits third on the racetrack. He is back to where he started, but he's got some gains here. Tyson Hodge, Andre Youssef, and Ben Faulkner as well are 3 big recipients of positions gained at this juncture that we stand at. So Dylan O'Shea's going to pick up a couple of spots inside the top 10. There's a bunch of guys there that are looking for good points tonight. So I'm just looking at Wayne Burke, Andrew Dyson as well. He might have been going, I need a big result here to make sure that I'm confident, but I think I can get there on pace. Hey, they're going to tick that box on the first night here, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the pressure for these teams and drivers knowing that, yes, there's a win and you're in scenario, but you've also got to, if you don't have a chance of taking that win, you've got to make the most of the points. If you're having an absolute shocker of a night, you've got to salvage as much points as you can get, because you don't want to rely on getting a win, because we've already seen just how difficult it is to win in this series from when it started. But tonight, with the new induction of the new car and how aggressive these guys are and how things change with safety cars, you just don't know who's going to win. So you don't want to rely on a win and you're in. You need to make the best of every situation, whether it be good or bad.
It's worthwhile noting where we're heading to for the rest of the 2025 Pro Series as well. Calendar for qualifying sees us, I believe we're off to Fuji next week. Right throughout your February, racing action is going to be coming your way. Fuji International Speedway without the chicane plays host to the round next week. Hockenheim, and the big one to round it all off, Winton Motor Raceway. And that's 4 circuits with 4 very different styles of racetrack as well. So you're going to see different teams succeed at different levels in this one. But it's important to put in the back of your mind. Maybe if you had a great car for Canadian Tire Motorsport Park and you're not having a great night, now you've got to go out there and you've got to go find something. There'll be a few sleepless nights in the middle of February. Hopefully that doesn't impact Valentine's Days and the partners around a lot of these race car drivers as well, Sam.
hopefully there's some very understanding partners out there that know just how difficult it could be. Like you said, it's not like they've got a couple of weeks to think about and get testing. They've only got a week, so it's basically next week they're back in the thick of it again. So if they can't make anything good happen tonight, they really need to get straight back into it for the next round.
When we talked to Daniel Woods, Dylan Burris, they were both saying, hey, we've got to focus on Bathurst 12 hour. They were looking to try and get somebody to lock in and go work on setups for that. Now they can't do that. That just adds an extra layer to the stress. Po, talk me through your qualifying series last year. The nerves, the anxiety. What was that like as an experience on your way to Rookie of the Year?
Oh, it was absolutely full on, especially in that first round. I actually was very quick in round one, but you wouldn't know it because the nerves got the better of me, quite simply, in qualifying. Ended up qualifying like 25th or something, getting a terrible start. It was the worst possible start, and it's hard to build that momentum up after that. Fortunately, I was able to turn it around, but that bad start, I can tell you now, the whole preparation going into week 2, I was thinking, I need to turn this around. I can't afford another bad result. And we obviously didn't have the win and you're in format last season. So it was a pressure cooker, and that's the whole point of this. This series is designed to see who can handle the pressure. You've got 4 rounds to make it into the main game. Do you have what it takes to make it happen? And for a lot of these drivers, they're going to find that out about themselves, because there'll be a lot of drivers who might be strong as an overall driver, but when it comes time to, the spotlight's on you, you need to perform now, no second chances. Are they capable of that? Some of these drivers, potentially not. And that's the exciting thing, I think, about this series. And the fact that it is such a short season just puts the drivers in this big pressure cooker that does actually simulate what happens in the main game pretty well, I thought. It prepares you very well.
Yeah, and sometimes there'll be those nights as well. You just walk back to the drawing board, you look at it and go, okay, what did we do well tonight? Well, there was nothing there. How unlucky did we get? Oh, it was all bad luck? Okay, no worries. There's not really much we can take away. And you can see it, Emily Jones starting to range up on the back end of these guys. At the front of the field, there'll be some lighter race cars as well in this mix, which is the guys will be out the front. Front 2 still yet to make a pit stop at this point in time. Those numbers are dwindling. The time to make those stops starting to run out. So what have they got available for us? And Jones was looking down the inside as they got to turn 3. Not quite the opening that she was looking for. Difficulty to overtake in these cars. Bo, would you say it's a little bit easier, a little bit tougher? Or I know that certainly can trade a little bit more paint in the GT.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best point about it, Scott, is I do think overall it might be a little bit tougher to get side by side with someone in these Gen 3s, but we've now opened up a whole new possibility of being able to lean on another car, because the old Gen 2, I won't get into details, but had its flaws in side-to-side contact that sometimes ruin the racing a little bit, where a car wouldn't react when hit as it probably should have. This Gen 3, I think, is a lot better, and you're able to rub and lean on other cars a lot more, and I think that makes the racing a little bit closer to what we see in the real life, and that's pretty exciting. But yeah, in terms of getting the actual run on drivers and late braking, it might be a little bit trickier than the Gen 2, but I think tonight's just proving that's not going to ruin the racing by any means. It is absolutely brilliant to watch.
Well, I want you to... We've got an opportunity here to ride on board with Brenton Hobson. If we can get that webcam back up, one of the things I actually want to talk about is wheel inputs and the way the car rides. Talk us through a little bit of the wheel work and what's going on within Brenton Hobson's cockpit, because driving one of these cars, less grip, you said, well, this is how it plays out in the wheel work as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you're going to see is just these little micro corrections there on throttle. You can see Brenton's doing a very good job. Currently got his tyres at about 19 laps of usage, so they've still got a little bit of life in them. They're definitely not destroyed by any means. And Brenton does usually have quite a smooth driving style, as he gives a bit of a bump there to Sean McNamara, but just driving the car very controlled. You can see he's not throwing the car around, he's not overdriving it, he's looking after the rears. The rears are the big factor in this Gen 3 car. The fronts you can use and abuse to a degree, not as far as we saw with the likes of Tom Freer earlier, but you can actually abuse and understeer the tyres or scrub the tyres a little bit more than other cars. But look at how he's driving the car off corner exit, super straight. And this final corner, I think, is going to be the big one. How does he drive it? He turns into the corner, one movement on the power, and actually a little bit of an imbalance there on the 88. So you can see for a driving style as smooth as Hopper, he's doing a great job. But this Gen 3 car is still keeping him on his toes.
Yep, still some counter steering, still some real work to do. And unfortunately for Glenn Postlethwaite, this has apparently just gotten a lot worse for him as the nights progressed. Have a look at the car ahead of him, the Vermilion Sim Sports entry out in the marbles, understeer, find himself on the outside as they crest the hill to Clayton's corner, and then he's out in the marbles. The return of serve, unfortunately for him, catches it, but car behind's going to run. He'll cover the inside. Look at the wiggle in the rear end of his Synergy Sim Racing car. Will finally manage to settle himself back down in it. And what was you that mentioned? I did go and do some Googling and some research. That's a shout out to Glenn Postlethwaite's Tyre Power Shepperton's sponsored and coloured car that he runs in the rear wall. So it's good to see him making the homage to a car that he managed to get behind the wheel of elsewhere.
Yeah, definitely. I do like when these drivers sort of do their own tributes to real cars, and even cooler in the case of Glenn Postlethwaite, where it's one of his own cars as well. If I'm remembering correctly, I think it's a Commodore that he runs in one of the Victorian series, but either way, very cool to see that little transfer from that Commodore over to the Camaro, which is, of course, the big transition all these drivers in the General Motors brand are making. I personally think he should be on the Ford side, but I'll keep my opinions to myself. I have to throw that in there as speaking about throwing it in. We're talking about sideways and contact is made. And which one of the Eclipse cars was that? I think that's Dylan Burst. And his night goes from bad to worse. Looks like the car's escaped mostly undamaged. But you can see there that rear left in particular was definitely taken a whack. We'll definitely need a replay of that one. But understandably, Dylan Burst not going to be too impressed with that one, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, so we'll have to get another look at that one when it comes to our way. And here it is. And Greg Pavel's the car that's ahead out into the weeds. Manages to catch it. So that was David Woods that shot through, I believe. Now it'll be another car. Gets his way back in, but still out in the marbles, and around goes the rear end. There's Stanaway there first. Yeah, so that missed Stanaway by millimetres.
Heavy concrete, wasn't it?
Yeah, much bigger impact than I actually thought initially. So very lucky, honestly, for Dylan Burst to still be continuing in this race, and no meatball flag either, so he's good to push on. But yeah, wow, what a moment for that race as Brenton Hobson. Tell you what, he's getting a bit nervous, I reckon, in this race, and not too happy about the fact McNamara, who within his own right is just holding position at the moment. So this is going to be interesting as Cody Deeth continues to push on. 6 laps to go in this race, but there's still a pit stop owing for all these cars.
Well, I'm just looking at this and thinking, this is now a splash and dash for the guys that are ahead. There's no way you take tyres with this long left in the race, would you, Sam?
No, absolutely not. Going back on Hobbo's point, he would be stressing a little bit because he knows the cars in front of him do have to make a pit stop, but he's starting to get that pressure from behind too. So he knows that what he needs to do is try and keep a clear race car, but also not leave a door open, because if he gets past, then that's going to throw this race away from him. But you're exactly right. There's no way that you'd bother to take on tyres now with 6 laps to go. Quick splash of fuel and get your job over and done with.
Well, no, you said tyres might be the limiting factor. Well, there's been a spanner thrown amongst the works, and it's gone the other way. That's not something that any one of us had down on the bingo card prior to the race.
No, definitely not, but you're absolutely right. In this case, when you're talking about 5 laps to go, just don't take the tyres, take the short pit stop, and get as much track position as you possibly can, because the reality is that taking tyres just isn't going to be worth the benefit. Even though they're changed in 8 seconds, that's 8 seconds you cannot afford at this point in time. And I do think, obviously, with how the pit lane works here, and obviously the tyre drop-off as well, and keeping the same tyres, we're not going to see these drivers pit until the white flag lap. So for our actual effective race leaders of Hobson, O'Reilly and Jones, they're not going to see the front of the field until very late on. We'll take a look at this battle, including Brian Borg and Hayden Bell.
Here we go, boys, as we get deeper and deeper into this race. The battles that are happening in the middle of the pack. Lachlan Caples just had a few issues as well, manages to rejoin the race. So, but now it's going to be firing down the inside. Free is going to go for the send. Does manage to get down the inside. Picks up the spot. Caples out and on the marbles. He's lost 2 spots as a result of that one. Winnes goes through. Picks them all up. Oh, boy. We're running out of time. 5 left on the board, and it is continuing to spice up.
What? This is 3 wide for a race lead. Nearly shot McNamara in the middle, but Hobson went for a move at Moss Corner he just did not have to do. And here comes Wayne Berg. Where has Wayne Berg come from out of nowhere? It's side by side down the back straight. Can you believe this, Scott?
Oh, it can't. He comes up over to the inside. McNamara's got it parked up on the outside. Who's going to try and follow it through? It looks like Burke's found the alley. O'Reilly's still side by side with Emily Jones. O'Reilly's in the marbles now. He's gained out around. Down goes to the car to pit lane. I think that was McNamara. And here comes Kobe Williams fighting back at them as well. Here they all come. Dyson's trying to get down the inside. Still 2x2. Bump drafting going on. A little bit of a whack. Contact to the rear end of O'Reilly. They've all gotten away. No way. They all got away with that one. Can you believe that one? O'Reilly is the biggest loser of them all. And Brenton Hobson somehow managed to pop back out the other side. Cody Deeth has skittled down the road just a little bit where Burke gets through to what is effectively second place. This has gone nuts. It continues to step it up.
That's incredible. We could see that it looked like that Brenton was getting a little bit antsy, didn't it? We touched on it just before all this started to happen, but man, that was a pressure. Oh, he's gone wide! He's going to throw it away! He's in the marbles! Emily Jones has managed to get past as well!
No!
This is pressure, guys! This is pressure! This is exactly what we were talking about. Brenton was in the optimum position. He didn't need to make any risky moves, and this has put him in the thick of it. And now he's losing ground to the back of Emily Jones.
Yeah, he is, and Jones is now thinking, I can scrap my way through. You said prior to the race, she's got a shot. She's got a shot at winning this thing. None of us said Wayne Burke. Burke's through to the pointy end of this thing, and he's only got a couple laps left to go. Can he potentially win it? There'll be 3 more laps to run when they cross the start-finish line. Where did McNamara rejoin? This is Brenton Hobson getting down the inside, locks it up, gets to the inside though, and then it's the next time he gets to Moss Corner with those overcooked fronts. The big braking zone, a lot of them, but look at the elbowing. They all set it up. Man, we're going to need to look at that run down the back straight away after the race because we're running out of time at the moment, and we've got to keep our eyes on, and it's still on for the effective race lead. Burke's got it, but you get the feeling that Camaro has just grown about 5 inches wider on each side.
Oh, this is a pressure cooker, isn't it? Put yourself in the position, Bo. If you are in the dying laps and you know you can win and you make the field, do you do a little bit of a bump and run?
You almost have to, right? It's win and you're in. You cannot afford to settle for second in this series. Like, yes, points are good, but win and you're in. Wouldn't you love to go into the next? Don't even have to go into the next 3 races. You can just kick back, relax, watch the show unfold, and start preparing for Sebring. Whoever comes second is going to be a missed opportunity. Speaking of missed opportunities, it's a missed apex for Hobson into the marbles and could not pull the car off. He's going to be kicking himself all night long. But if anything happens between Emily Jones and Wayne Burke, he's still in P3. This is still not over.
Andrew Dyson is 6th on the road. There goes Williams. Williams is down the lane. Cody Deeth is also in the lane. So they're both objected themselves. This is now actually for the race lead. Forget the effective stuff. It's now for the actual race lead. What are they going to do? Jones was a little bit wide at the turn in for turn 1. And Andrew Dyson is inside the top 5 in qualifying series. I don't believe it. Burke plus 11 spots, qualified 12, sits first. Dyson plus 11, 15th to 4th. My word.
And take nothing away from Wayne Burke. He's driven really well, but he got gifted that position from Brenton. Like, Brenton just made that little bit of a mistake, got in touch with the marbles, and then that was it. The door opened up, Wayne got through, Emily got through, and now Brenton's back in 3rd. Unbelievable.
It's going to be the golden ticket back straight for Wayne Burke, if he can make it stick. 2 laps left to run on the ticker. It's down to about 1.5. He has got himself within 2. Oh, and there's around 1 more car. That'll be Horton, I think, from the back end of the field. So that's a lap down car. Take that one out of the equation. Don't really worry about it too much. But there'll be 1 more time down the back straight away. Can Emily Jones do anything about it? Is anyone going to get the marbles? Burke's a touch wide as they get to the S's. We're going to see our first white flag of the season. And boy, hasn't it been an epic one. Sean McNamara has just jumped on the radio. Something's happening to him in the background. Jones is right there. Just about gets to the bumper. White flag in the air. 2.46 miles, 3-point-something kilometers. We're running out of time. Down at turn number 1. Has Jones got anything for Wayne Burke? Has Wayne Burke found a golden ticket in a 3-wide straightaway and a myriad of opportunity? And top 3 is around as well. And look at the bumper. That car may not make the finish.
Emily's trying to put that pressure on the back of Burke. She knows that she's got to get the job done. If she gets the position, it's a win and through. You also don't want to put the bumper and also get a penalty at the same time. She needs to put as much pressure as she can on Burke, hopefully to make a little mistake and get the job done. Here we go.
She's there. She's got the inside tyres in the marble. Can she get the drive out? That's the critical factor. We're just about done with the lap. There's going to be 3 more corners left to run. But look at the drive that Wayne Burke's got. He was sitting there. He was watching on with about 5 laps left to go, and he was thinking a top 5's a good night here. I'm going to bank a whole host of points. Now he's just going to pull the car up at the crest of the hill. The S's for the final time, and the first driver to lock themselves in through the qualifying series. Wayne Burke's put on a blinder. He come from out of nowhere. It's taken some luck. It's taken some strategy. But he's going to put the car into the main game. Wayne Burke's done it. No way. Oh, put that race in the history books. I cannot recall anything like that ever in the quali series. My word.
That's quali racing right there. Oh, they're still trying to take it to the line too. Everyone trying to grab as many positions as they can. These points will all continue on. We've only got 4 rounds, but now Burke, he can just sort of sit back and put his feet up.
And Brad Rattrue managed to slice through and grab one at the final corner as well. On the run down the start finish straight. Didn't quite get the drive out the other side, but boy whiz. And everyone will look at Wayne Burke. He's been a driver that's been there, that's been around for a while. Haven't you driven some endurance racing alongside of him at some point there, Bo, as well?
I haven't. I've raced against him many times. He's a fierce competitor, but that's the moment for Brenton Hobson that he's going to be regretting for a long time. Tried to move on McNamara, didn't necessarily need to either, and unfortunately it has opened up a whole world of trouble for him. And unbelievably, the driver that benefited was Wayne Burke, a driver that, let's not forget, just a few weeks ago left Synergy Sim Racing.
Yeah, and he was on the left-hand side of the road. He shot to the left, and McNamara to try and look for the hole was Jacob O'Reilly. That closed up. He shot to the right to try and cover off Wayne Burke. That closed up. Burke skittles through. Hobson gets ahead of McNamara, and then where does the hole open up when they get down to the final corner? It'll be on the inside of Emily Jones, and that is how he gets the job done. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Boy. That's race 1. That's race 1. Where do we go from here?
We got 3 more weeks, boys, and I think we've just seen a little tickle of what we're gonna see over the next few weeks. Tom Freer and the replay here, the OG Gear replay. Look at these guys. Oh, contact there. That was on the last lap, nosed it into the wall, and that's heartbreak because all that work for tonight is all just thrown out the window right there.
P38 at the finish for Tom Freer. It was a tough night for him all around, and not how he would have wanted to win that one. That is a brutal way to debut for him for Moon Esports.
And Wayne Burke gets the job done. From Emily Jones, gets home in P number 2. Brenton Hobson. You know what? There's a curse. There's a curse on Brenton Hobson. I'm not going to talk about it. Oh, boy. I thought he was going to finally crack it tonight. I so totally did. Andrew Dyson gets home in the 4th. This is the big ticket, because remember we're talking, you need to bank a lot of big points. Have a look at the names inside of that top 10 and have a think about the names that aren't there. So it'll be Burke from Jones from Hobson, Dyson home in 4th spot, Jacob O'Reilly rounds out the top 5, Dylan O'Shea from Matthew Bowler, Glenn Postlethwaite gets back inside the top 10. Remember his lap 1 and how far backwards he was sliding? Manages to recover a whole bunch of points. Sebastian Vandel from Haydenveld make up the top 10. Outside of the top 10, we will throw it back to Jack Widders, who banks himself a whole bunch of points as well. Lachlan Capel gets home in 12th spot. Brian Borg, Ben Faulkner, Damon Woods in 15th. Andre Youssef 16th. Cody Deet gets home in 17th. And I believe he's managed to get his pit stops out of the way. Dylan Burst from Corey Preston. Kurt Stenberg home inside the top 20, which was big considering how injured that car was looking at one point in time. Richie Stanaway will get home in 21st across the line. 30 seconds worth of penalties to add. So he will finish about 48 seconds off the race lead. Tayo Serrano from Jake Blackhall. Brady Baldwin home in 24th. Kobe Williams from Chris Island. Jack Andrews, Tice Hodge. Tyson Broad, Ryan Bettis round out your top 30. We'll get outside your 30. Rain Campbell will be home in 31st. Dennis Gatarik, Brad Rattrue. Think about his night at one point. He was right there and in contention, albeit on the wrong strategy, but he was at least at the pointy end of the field. Andre Heimgartner from Michael Talianchis, Damon Mulqueen. Something happened to Sean McNamara in the dying stages of this one. Tom Freer as well will get home in 38, but he'll get +1. Greg Verfeld, 47 seconds off the lead. Remember, we said 48 seconds after 38 seconds worth of penalties. Stanaway will be home in 39th. Drivers off the lead lap, though, will be Anthony Visma, 1 lap down. Issues for Visma, unfortunately, throughout that one. For him, Josh Horton will be the car at 2 laps down. Ryan Jones, unfortunately, didn't take the start. Daniel Benefield, unfortunately, looks like 6 laps down for some issues and gremlins there. And Dylan Pereira was the trigger for the safety car towards the midpoint of that race. But the pressure cooker of the qualifying series delivers. And Brenton Hobson, mate, we were sitting here, we were singing your praises, and we were getting ready to celebrate with you. You take third, but it could have been one race and done in the quali series. You had the strategy tonight. You planned, you played things out. That is prep work, and you called the right strategy with the safety car, compulsory pit stops.
Yeah, the strategy fell to us a little bit there. We're probably lucky that the safety car didn't come out, 20 seconds earlier and get us before we got in the lane. So it sort of fell into our hands there. I mean, track position was always going to be so important. So we had good speed at the front and didn't really feel like giving that up if we could help it. But we probably got a little bit lucky there. But yeah, as it turned out, that was, it handed me the greatest possible outcome, really, to be the first car on the road that didn't have to stop again. And for a second there, it almost looked good, didn't it?
Yeah, for a second it looked very, very good, mate. You obviously knew that the 2 guys ahead of you at that point were not in contention because they had to make the pit stops, and eventually, well, that door just opened from Sean McNamara. You kind of have to take it, because if you don't take it, well, you're going backwards. But was it a brain fade? Do you think it was the right call? I mean, it's very easy to look back with hindsight now and say maybe it wasn't the right call. But if you had your time again, would you do it?
Yeah, I should apologise to Sean. I gave him a big door there. That's not what I like to do. But I was quite happy to sit behind him, except that just with the last sort of 2 or 3 laps before that, I tried to put the move on him there. He just started backing me up enough that I was like feeling that the guys behind were about to go. Emily looked really strong. She had good tyre life, and I knew that she was probably quicker than me. So if she could get through, I was always in trouble. And I mean, I just felt like Jacob was in a position to start throwing moves at me if he wanted to. And I wasn't really happy with that. I thought I had a good run, and I mean, I think Sean was quite happy for me to go down there, but it was pretty hard to stop offline on the marbles a bit, and I ended up getting into him. But we sort of all survived that. The one that I sort of made the mistake in the same spot the next lap was probably just driver error more than anything, which sucks. But I don't know if I had some build up on the tyres or just got too aggressive or what, but locked the tyre and threw away what probably was a good chance to not have to come back and do this again for the next few weeks. But glass is always half full, gives me plenty more opportunity to learn how to drive the car fast and get some more experience at the top level on some different tracks. So I'll take that, and we'll try again next week and see what we can do at Fuji.
Mate, finally, the floor is all yours to give the thank yous over to the people that make it possible for you in racing.
Oh, well, absolutely. I have to thank my fan base, people watching tonight over on my Twitch and stuff. Appreciate all those guys. But more than that, I have to thank the team. Like, I can't tell you how big of a team effort it's been the last few weeks, particularly this week leading into this race. I've been away a lot of the week, and the guys have really worked hard and put in the time and effort to put a good setup on the car. And I mean, the thing was, it showed. We had Dylan, up the front at the start as well. And I feel terrible for him that he had an engine go on him, and he deserves so much more. In fact, I think a couple of our guys had pretty tough nights, but the cars were great. The pace was good. And obviously I need to thank all those guys for putting in the work. And also to all our sponsors. Sudspeed just came on board. Big shout out to those guys. Love their products, and you should check them out. Watercraft Performance Center, Works Racing Components, Dr. Epoxy, DM Cinematography, all the other sponsors we've got in the team that help make the wheels turn around. We appreciate it. And of course, everyone involved here in the broadcast booth. You guys do an awesome job. I can't wait to go back and watch.
Oh, there is going to be about 10 minutes of us just going nuts up here. So yeah, you've got a good watch tomorrow. So oh boy, that was thank you for putting on a very, very exciting race to certainly kickstart the new era. Ladies and gentlemen, the driver of the 88 for Synergy Sim Racing, Brenton Hobson. Thank you for your time, mate.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Now I'll let Sandman take the honours with the next interview. Sitting alongside a female entrant out of second spot here tonight, one of the most consistent co-drivers in the series over the last couple of years, Emily Jones, is with Sandman out of P2.
Emily, congratulations. I guess a little bit of commiserations too. What an amazing battle to be right in the thick of it. That was some pressure cooker racing right at the end. Tell us about your night.
Yeah, it was a good race. I got to be happy with second. Like, I'm pretty stoked. I do feel like I had the fastest car at the end, which is I think the frustrating thing, but yeah, just wasn't quite enough to pass, I think, and get some moves done earlier, which would have helped. And I don't know, the last couple of laps were pretty crazy. So but I had spotters and they were literally just like, go left. And I was on the extreme left-hand side of the road being like, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to stay here. But yeah, it was good. I was surprised by how fast we were. So it's good signs, I guess.
And great racing. Obviously, it's a debut for the V8 Pro International with Gen 3. So how did you feel that transition went throughout this race? Were you missing the old car, glad to be in the new car?
Yeah, it's different. Like, it's a different car. I think it changes the way that you drive here. Like, in the old car, you have lots of bombs, like, at the end of the back straight. Like, you can pass people there. And there's lots of drafting and there's lots of like fuel saving a lot of the time, and the draft was strong, but it wasn't enough to like pass people, I guess. And there's so much less aero, so the apex speed through like turn 1, 2, and 3 is so much less. But I don't know, I think it was really good. The main thing for me was there was just lots of marbles. I don't know if it came across on the broadcast, but like there was marbles there from the start of the race, and if you went half a car width offline, like if you put wheels in the marbles, you just drive off the road. Like, it was really scary. So that was the hardest part, I think.
Well, that's good feedback, Emily, because we picked up on that on the broadcast, and I think that's unfortunately what caught Hobbo out. Is just he touched those marbles and ran a little wide. But we were asking the question about the series, how the qualifying series is win and you're in. So if you were close enough, would it have been in the old terms putting the chrome horn to the back of Burke to get the job done, or would have you played it a little bit differently?
I only remembered that midway through the race as well. And I was like, oh, I could just have a huge go and then just like don't have to turn up for 3 weeks. Like I'm in Sydney next week. I think I fly back like 2 hours before the race or something. Wow. So I'm like, getting to avoid that would be great. But yeah, I don't know. I think that the main place to pass here was at Moss, like in between the two rights. It seems like that's where lots of moves were happening. You put the car up, the other car's on the marbles, and you get the move done. And I felt like that was just my weakest part of the track. So I just wasn't confident enough to get there. And I don't know, I'm expecting that I might make it into the series, and Wayne Burke's of course going to be there, and Brenton Hobson and stuff as well. So it's like there's no point bidding them now, and then I have to deal with like 12 months of them hating me. So we'll see. Yeah.
I'm sure if the shoe was on the other foot, they probably wouldn't be too afraid to put the bumper to you anyway. But look, Scotty put me on the spot at the start of this. He asked me to pick someone, and I actually went with you, Emily. I figured you had the measure tonight. It was really great racing, but it's not the end of the world. You didn't win to get in, but you've put yourself in a good points position just to stay inside that top 20.
Yeah. I can't. I'm of course annoyed, but I should be really happy. And I was kind of worried about the night. Like, I was pretty nervous, and I just thought if I get the first qualifying run down, I'll be okay. And I did, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, it's all downhill from here. So good stuff for the rest of the season, I think.
Absolutely. We couldn't agree more. Before we let you go and let you think about tonight's result, is there anyone else you want to thank?
Honestly, just the team. TTR has done just good vibes there, and some of the main game drivers have been in helping out in the last couple of days and stuff, and just spotting and everything. It's just a really good environment as well. Thanks to VRS as well. They've sponsored our car in real life as well for the last year, which was really nice. And yeah, it was good. Thank you. Thanks for watching, I guess.
Before we let you go, Emily, I will just let you know of something I've just been made aware of. There is a current investigation into the safety car restart, which is against Wayne Burke. So we don't currently have a result on that one, but what we're going to say at this point in time is race results are unofficial. So
okay.
Just put a pin in that one. So we won't get you excited. We won't try and speak too much about that. But yes, so there is it's worthwhile. We'll have another look at it. There will be an update coming on that one, but might be lucky for you if you're away in Sydney next week. It might be qualified in, but that's never the way you want to do it.
No. Well, I guess we'll have to see. I don't really know. So, but yeah, we'll see.
Well, regardless, well done, Emily. Great drive tonight, and I guess we'll all just sit tight and see how those results play out. But all the best. If we see you next week at Fuji, we'll see you next week.
Yeah, see you then.
There you go.
Yeah,
How about that, Scotty? That's some breaking news that I guess we're just going to have to play the waiting game right now.
Yep. So that's all being looked at in the background at the moment. In the meantime, Wayne Burke has dropped here into the commentary box with us. Wayne, the drive out on track. Let's not even bring the other stuff into this thing at the moment in the background. But what we can say is on the track, managed to get the job done. Walk us through the wild moment running down the back straight away. I believe it was with about 5 laps to go. 3 wide, blocks being thrown everywhere, and it's 2 wide bumper-to-bumper traffic, just about peak hour. Mate, how did you pick the right lane to be in at the right time?
Honestly, no idea. I think I was actually just speaking to Emily just before the interview, and I was just saying I went to the inside just to not be involved in a crash, and it just ended up being the right line. And then, yeah, whatever happened in front of me, and they both got bad runs off the corner. And then the bump drafting's sort of a bit sketchy in these cars. Like the cars really move around, especially when you've got one in front, one behind. And so, like, you're sort of watching everyone jostle, and I think I was getting bumped as well from behind and sort of bumping Hobbo a little bit. And it was just, yeah, crazy. But luckily, I just got away with one. And then, unfortunately for Hobbo, he locked a brake the lap later, and the seas opened, as they say.
The seas parted, mate. The racing tonight, look, to cut your way through the field, to survive in the thick of it for you, you started outside the top 10. Surviving those opening few laps was in that just outside the top 10 is always one of the most difficult places to be on the racetrack. What was the mindset like through those opening segments of the race? Because getting a little bit of a look at it, was about survival. It's just making sure points on the board.
Yeah, exactly right. So I went into this tonight, it's all about consistency. I didn't qualify as well as I would have liked. My prep wasn't the best with 12-hour last week with my real life commitments. So that wasn't the greatest, but yeah, we just wanted to be consistent tonight. Get some good points for the 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And then in that first stint, sort of, it was hard to make a pass with the marbles and stuff. So just sort of had to save the tyre and see what happens. The long run pace was quite good. So just looked after the tyre. And yeah, then that safety car just made everything go crazy.
And go crazy it did. I mean, a bunch of different cars and different strategies after that safety car restart. And that's one of the things that's probably... It's difficult, right? So I can tell you we've just had the verdict actually just handed to us in the commentary box. Unfortunately, it looks like a drive-through penalty. But walk us through safety car restarts. You can't overtake before the control line, mate. It's difficult when you're in the thick of things, and there's obviously checkups. Everyone's trying to get that right restart. It's one of the most difficult times to be a car racer.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, obviously, it's actually interesting they've cited that way, because a couple of years ago they set the precedent with a car lifting, and that wasn't a penalty. So clearly they've changed their minds now. But anyway, that's up to them. But yeah, safety car restarts, it's really hard. The safety car restart was quite late, so there was a lot of accelerating and braking, and unfortunately the car in front lifted, and I didn't lift as much. I'm happy to give my telemetry, but anyway, these things happen. Unfortunate for this one, but yeah, at least the pace was good, which is the main thing.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The confidence levels, I mean, it's a win on the racetrack, but the confidence levels will be right there. You know that you can go out and you can get it done in the weeks coming up, and we're headed off to Fuji next week. What's the confidence level at Fuji?
I'll let you know next week. No idea yet. I've only driven there in a TT car, so we'll see how we go in the supercar. I think it's going to be interesting. The draft's going to play a big factor next week, especially the big long straight. So that's going to be interesting. That's going to make qualifying really hard, I think. It almost be better to do single person qualifying there, but anyway, it could shake up the field a bit too, which is going to be interesting and good for you guys. So definitely I think it'll be another crazy one like tonight, maybe even a bit more crazy, but we'll see how we go.
Mate, finally, congratulations on the result out on the track. Who would you like to give a thank you to?
I just have to thank the guys at Vermilion Esports for welcoming me in, and the sponsors Race Lab, Burb Designs, Supernova Motorsports, Nath 96 Designs, Hymo Setups, and the Vermilion Coaching guys.
Mate, thank you very much. It's been good to see you back in the sim. I know I've seen you in a bunch of official races of late across the different things. You look like you're enjoying the sim racing again, and the new supercars as well, mate. So it's been good to see you do well.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, guys.
Righto. Before we let you all go for the night, we are going to take a look at the moment that has gotten Wayne, unfortunately, a 30-second post-race penalty, which is the equivalent of a drive-through. And this is what it's like. So this is the safety car restart from the front. Keep your eyes a little bit in the background. And this is he said, look at the cars lifting just ahead of him. The black car that's just coming through, he goes to the left-hand side of the shot, and the car ahead of him has had to lift. You can overlap after the apex of the last corner, but that white line there is considered the control line. You cannot have the nose ahead at that line. The difficulty for Wayne, and I'll cross to you on this one, Bo, in these safety car restarts, is, well, there's a gap there. The guys ahead are lifting. I want to get this job done down at turn 1.
Yeah, absolutely. You're always trying to set up the run as best you can to try and get that overlap in a turn 1, make the position there. But in this case, it's just a case of he misjudged the run, unfortunately. Wasn't helped, obviously, that Matthew Bowler had to hit the brakes as well. Nothing egregious there. You can see that, obviously, Bowler has traffic in front of him, nowhere to really go. It's just one of those circumstances that we all have to be aware of on safety car restarts. They're so frantic. We're looking in every direction. And you'll see here just how much actually goes on one of these restarts. And by the time Bowler's brake lights would have been on, there'd be no way for Burke to react. You can see he's got his foot to the floor there. Phenomenal restart by all accounts. Just, yeah, the rules clearly state you can overlap, you just cannot pass before the control line, and that's where he got tripped up tonight.
It's by meters. He's got nothing to. It's meters, and the difficult thing is 30 seconds added to his post-race time is going to drop him to 31st. So it's effectively 1 spot per second. It's the safety. We've had it all. We've literally had it all here tonight. Righto, round number 1 of your qualifying series. Race results remain unofficial because I did notice there were some more penalties being handed out at the moment. It looks like Emily Jones is going to qualify her way straight through to the series. Keep you updated. We'll have more news on that one. We'll give you the lowdown when we get here next week. Every single week in February on a Wednesday night, we're going to be going racing with the Logitech Pro Invitational qualifying series for 2025. If you thought Mosport was exciting, if you thought the action here was wild and the bump drafting was chaotic, there's a wide main straight, a track that was nearly designed and built to be a 2.5 mile super speedway for NASCAR racing. They kept a few of the elements of it, and it does create hectic overtaking opportunities on the run down to turn number 1. There is not a wider first corner anywhere else except maybe the Nürburgring. What's it going to look like? Join us next week on February the 12th from 7:45 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time to find out all of the racing action for Logitech Pro Invitational. Final words on tonight. I'll start with you, Stan, man. That was crazy. That was hectic. Boy, there was a lot of lessons to be learned there, I think.
Oh, mate, so much happened throughout tonight. It's ridiculous. First off, I want to say commiserations to Wayne Burke. You saw that vision. It was a matter of inches, but the way he got that news live in the broadcast and composed himself, like, that's kudos to him, because there's no doubt he would have been absolutely gutted with what happened. But for him to keep his composure and just sort of take it, he was just, to be put on the spot like that and be told live. A big shout out to him. And look, we're talking inches. Like, that replay was unbelievable. At that line, there's nothing in it. And unfortunately, the rules are the rules. Emily will now advance, and she doesn't have to worry about rushing back from Sydney to get to Fuji now. So, but don't count out Wayne Burke. He'll be back. He'll be stronger than ever. And, look out. He might be very interesting to watch at Fuji.
Oh boy, and Bo, for you, I mean, that's the racing was hectic. Absolutely. I thought we were going to see a single line, very little overtaking. It seems like the new car, the new system, the new model, it's working in our favor. The fans are getting racing action, and next week's going to be bigger than that.
Oh, absolutely. Just imagine that run down into turn 1, that huge braking zone. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see some side-by-side runs as well through that crazy turn number 3. It's going to be great. Look, put it this way. In the last pro qualifying round we had at Fuji, I came second. I lost the win by 0.03 of a second. And if we're thinking these cars are even closer than the old Gen 2s were, I don't even want to know what kind of margins we're working with next week. It is going to be nuts. You won't want to miss it.
Yeah, the last time I called a race from Fuji was actually in the Gen 2 supercar, and it was 3 wide panels rubbing, door banging for a race win. So, I'm always excited for another race to go live. Join us all next Wednesday night as we figure out who is going to be the 23rd driver to be locked into our 2025 series. We'll join you all then from 7:45 Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. We'll see you then. Scotty Rankin, Stephen Sandman Clark, and Bo Albert bringing you all the coverage. And on behalf of all of our sponsors, we thank you for tuning in once again. Logitech Pro Invitational again next week.
Weekend in, weekend out, Motorsport Australia officials are making waves. From waving flags, waving cars through pit lane, or responding to a wave for help. Wave hello to new lifelong friends. Who knows, you might just make waves around the world. Ride the first wave. Search Motorsport Australia officials today.
Hi, I'm Brendan Leach, driver of the number 7 Audi R8 for NPC Audi Custom Racing. First impressions of OG gear on the sim, fantastic. It feels really nice in your hands and doesn't gather up under your fingers. The sock, very breathable for me. I get sweaty feet when I'm on simulator. I know that's not the nicest thing to say. It has just the right amount of grip because your feet do just naturally move around on the pedals a little bit, and I like the way that they give you that freedom but also give you that stability that you need.
We are gaming fanatics. Our goal has never been to just play games. We think it's much better to feel like you're actually in the game. This feeling is what drives us as we create world-class gaming chairs. Our one aim, give you a brand new gaming experience. Help you move in perfect sync with everything on screen. Make sure you're having a ton of fun. It took us decades to achieve this, and we're still not satisfied. Every day, we wake up to get better. We'll never stop designing the very best to help you be your best. When it's all said and done, our job's only done if you're in full flow and focused on your victory. May you win, and win big.